businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Welcome to 2021 Teach for Nigeria graduation ceremony, broadcasting live from PlusTvAfrica studios in Lagos, Nigeria. It's an honor to be hosting this heartwarming event again. My name is Elsie Godwin. In 2020, according to World Economic Forum, the world is not on track to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal on education for all. The UN has also reported that almost 69 million teachers need to be recruited worldwide by 2030 if international pledges on education are to be kept. The rate is lowest in sub-Saharan Africa, where the pupils versus trained teachers ratio is 60-1. Among the factors cited by the World Economic Forum in 2019 are underinvestment, poor employment and working conditions for teachers and education support personnel, unsafe work environment, high workloads and low salaries. Nigeria still has the highest number of out-of-school children in sub-Saharan Africa region, a situation that needs to be addressed radically. Teach for Nigeria acts as a catalyst to build a formidable network of people who are determined to address it. We invite you to join this event and the conversation on social media using the hashtag TFN2021 graduation. Now, Teach for Nigeria is committed to making Nigeria better through education. In the next 60 to 90 minutes, this event will have a full agenda with a lot to cover. Let's start with this short introduction of Teach for Nigeria.
Teach for Nigeria was established in 2016, inspired by the vision that one day all Nigerian children would have access to an excellent education. Teach for Nigeria takes a unique approach to eliminating educational inequity by enlisting Nigeria's most promising future leaders in the effort. As the first and only organization to partner with young leaders from diverse academic backgrounds in an extended service initiative, we recruit, train, and support outstanding graduates and professionals as fellows to deliver an excellent education in under-resourced Nigerian schools. Teach for Nigeria has grown substantially in its 4 years of operation, from a pilot program of 44 fellows in its first year to recruiting a total of 713 fellows by its 4th year. Our current cohort of 464 outstanding graduates teaching as full-time teachers in public, primary, and secondary schools across Lagos and Ogun states, working daily to improve the educational and life prospects of over 40,000 students. We have successfully proven that outstanding young leaders in Nigeria with adequate training and support can make an impact in the lives of children in under-resourced schools. To accelerate our vision of an an excellent education for all children in Nigeria, we launched several initiatives during the COVID-19 pandemic. We started the Teach for Nigeria radio school to ensure learning continued for children in marginalized communities. Today, the TFN radio school provides complimentary educational content to over 60,000 primary school learners across Ogun State and other neighboring states. In 2021, we introduced a parent segment in Yoruba to engage parents in the learning process of their children while also investing in their personal development.
Àwọn ọmọ yìí lórí ètò Teach for Nigeria Radio School. Nísìn, a fẹ́ gbọ́ nǹkan tí Ọ̀gbẹ́ni Adésínà Rabiu fẹ́ bá wa sọ.
Ẹ káalẹ́ o gbogbo ẹ̀yin màmá àti bàbá wa nílé, ẹ̀yin ẹ̀gbọ́n wa àti àbúrò, àtọmọdé àtàgbàlagbà gbogbo yín la kí. Orúkọ tèmi ni Ọ̀gbẹ́ni Adésínà Rabiu. Èmi ni wọ́n máa ṣàtọ́kùn yín lórí abala tí àwọn òbí lórí ètò Teach for Nigeria Radio School lónìí.
We expanded training to existing public school teachers in partnership with Pro Futuro Foundation to train teachers on the pedagogical and digital skills, and so far, we have successfully trained over 14,000 teachers across 28 states in Nigeria to equip principals with the mindset, knowledge, and leadership skills required to catalyze growth process and transformation in our schools and communities. We launched the School Leadership Fellowship Program. These early successes of Teach for Nigeria have only served to illustrate that Teach for Nigeria must continue to grow and enable collective leadership in order to match the enormous scale of education inequality facing the country as a whole. The next 5 years will be critical as we work to grow towards our target of placing over 1,500 fellows to serve nearly 200,000 of Nigeria's most marginalized students by 2024, with an ultimate goal of expanding to all 6 geopolitical regions of Nigeria by our 10th year of operation. This is an exciting moment for Teach for Nigeria, as Teach for Nigeria has the opportunity to grow into an enduring institution with strong roots in the Nigerian context. Support at this opportune moment has the potential to catalyze transformation with more champions and allies. Teach for Nigeria would be able to effectively expand and scale its impact to deliver transformational teachers and leaders to more Nigerian children in low-income communities. It's up to me. It's up to
Up next, we invite Rachel Onuigbo, a pupil of Moshood Abiola School, Abeokuta. We now welcome Rachel to read the citation of the chairman of Teach for Nigeria, Mr. Gbenga Oyebode. And right after that, we would have the opening remarks from the chairman to officially kick off this event.
Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, MFR, is a lawyer with over 35 years of international experience in corporate and commercial practice. He has contributed towards improving the Nigerian judiciary, following his remarkable contribution towards developing Nigeria. In the year 2000, he was conferred with member of the Order of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, one of Nigeria's highest honors. Gbenga is the founder and chairman of Aluko and Oyebode, one of the largest law firms in Nigeria. He also sits on the board of some reputable companies in Nigeria and across the world. He is an ardent believer that education is a key requirement for any countries to attain economic prosperity. This is why he currently sits on the board of Teach for Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Gbenga Oyebode for his opening speech.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Mr. Chairman, sir, please give your speech.
Continue to bless them and take them to their destination.
I'd like to thank my sponsor for giving.
Do we have the chairman?
A scholarship, and I would like to tell all students like me to continue to be hardworking and to never give up on their dreams.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
My name is
Okay, please go ahead, sir.
I attend Baptist Nursery and Primary School 1, Idiaba, Abeokuta, Ogun State. I'm presently in prep.
Okay, let's go on.
Again, just to welcome him.
Another fellow. More
Ceremony today. My
teaching was
going to be very, very short. It's really Teach for Nigeria.
Charity
and to
security.
When he met Teach for
You are hearing me.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
So Teach for Nigeria, as you know, is based in is the Nigerian part of Teach for All. What we try and do is to place our fellows, place them in underserved areas, in rural communities, and we've been at this since 2017. But I think what's particularly important, just to give you the trajectory of Teach for Nigeria, is that when we launched the program, we had only 44 fellows. However, in 2018, we increased to 161 fellows in 92 schools. 44 fellows were recruited in 2019, and we've had 420 fellows in 2020. But I think what's important is how many, to give you the in terms of numbers, total numbers of children that we have impacted in the low-income communities. There have been 60,000 children that Teach for Nigeria has impacted. And I think for me, that's a particularly important number. I think it's also important to say about today's graduation highlights that of the 44 fellows who are essentially graduating today, they've impacted almost 2,000 students in 29 public schools in Ogun State. And for me, that's the particular statistic that we should look at. What have our fellows done? How have they impacted local communities? And are they change agents? For us, that is particularly important. That's what Teach for Nigeria brings to the table. I think it's important also to just highlight some of the changes that they have inspired. The fact that they've set up learning centers in their rural communities, that they have, during the COVID pandemic, that they set up digital lesson plans for and resources for the primary schools in which they that they taught at, and that particularly in Ogun State, that they were reference point for what teaching should be, what teachers should be able to do in particularly difficult, underserved communities. I think it's also important that we have a program called Be the Change, and that each one of our fellows actually set up projects where they were able to be the change that all of us want, not just in the teaching profession, but in the local communities that they operated in. Finally, they were also able to raise funding. Our fellows raised approximately 7 million naira for the Be the Change projects that all of them participated in. On a final note for me, I think one of the things that impresses me the most about Teach for Nigeria is how we are able to use these opportunities that we have, that following up from graduation, our fellows stay in the education sphere. They stay as ambassadors, they stay as not just as teachers, they stay as influencers, and a significant number join public service and remain in the teaching profession. Those that actually don't stay as teachers, we tend to find that they are also focusing attention on the challenges of teaching in society, on the ability to use digital media to enhance education, and actually be able to speak to the changes that all of us want of the teaching profession. So really to say congratulations to the graduating class. We know that you are still going to be around us. We know that you will continue to contribute and to participate in the changes that we see. And we look forward to working with you going on. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me today.
Mr. Chairman, and congratulations again to the graduates. Now let's meet the celebrants of this occasion. Our reason for being here, the fellows of TFN 2021 graduation. So whilst we celebrate the graduates, let's get to know them a little bit more. We're proud of our graduating fellows, and now is the time to hear the commencement speech from a former Minister of Education of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. She scarcely needs any introduction. However, Ojewale Bolu from ALG Nursery and Primary School, Abeokuta, will be doing the honors of introducing a woman who is passionate about quality education and good governance in Nigeria, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili.
Dr. Obiageli, a patriotic Nigerian, graduated from the University of Nigeria and has a master's degree, both from the University of Lagos and Harvard University, USA. She was the former vice president of World Bank African Region, where she oversaw more than 1,600 staff in 47 sub-Saharan African countries, with projects costing over $40 billion. Prior to this, she was Nigeria's former Minister of Education, where she led a comprehensive reform program, including restoring and refocusing attainment of the education for all. She was the pioneer head of the budget, monitoring the price intelligence unit, where she earned the nickname Madam Due Process for her outstanding and excellent work ethic. Part of Dr. Obiageli's effort to combat corruption led her to co-found the global anti-corruption body, Transparency International. She was a presidential candidate of 2019 election. She was majorly involved in convening Bring Back Our Girls campaign after over 300 schoolgirls from Chibok were abducted by the militant group Boko Haram. Notable award and recognition that she has received include Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, CFR, BBC's 100 Women, 2013 and 2014, Time Magazine, 100 Most Influential People, New York Times, one of 25 for Men Impact 2015 and nominee 2018 Nobel Peace Prize. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with a great excitement that I welcome one of the great women of our time, Dr. Obi, for her speech.
what a huge delight to be able to speak to the 2021, the class of 2021 of Teach for Nigeria Fellows. How amazing that your 2-year journey has come to an end with you having done incredible things. I am an enthusiast of Teach for Nigeria. And that's not just because I was privileged to listen to the leaders of this movement, articulate the dreams that they had for education at that time. But it was also the fact that it may have appeared a daunting journey to undertake, but they did it anyway. And here we are today with such a huge network of people that have already gone ahead of you, the class of 2021. I am especially interested in this organization and the mandate it has given itself because as a former Minister of Education, one of the key issues that we needed to address at that time and even more now is this matter of the quality of the teachers in the classroom. But it was not just quality, it was also the number of teachers in the classroom. The quality is, however, so important because what we know by virtue of research and evidence is that if you have quality teachers in the classroom, you increase the probability that children will attain the learning objectives of foundational literacy and numeracy in primary school, as in basic school of 9 years. You start with the primary segment, the junior secondary segment that gives you 9 years of uninterrupted schooling. And when I've looked at what Teach for Nigeria is doing, it really has designed that solution. Not only did it design it, but then it's tested it by selecting the best of graduates from different disciplines into the teaching profession and giving them the opportunity to be impactful in the classroom, but even beyond the classrooms. And so I know that the 44 of you that are graduating have done all kinds of projects of social impact in the communities where you have taught. You know, it's just amazing how we have to conclude that Margaret Mead was right. She said, never doubt the capacity of a bunch of thoughtful and committed citizens to change the world. In fact, she adds that it's the only thing that ever has. So look at Teach for Nigeria. Look at those of you graduating. How many are you in the sea of 200 million citizens? But look at the impact you're having. I want you to understand that living this program doesn't mean living all the things that you have gained. It basically means scaling those mindset, those core values, those cognitive capacity, those leadership qualities, those collaboration skills, the skills of giving direction and leadership, and of course, following. Because you have to follow your students. Oh my God, in teaching, you have to follow your students in order to inspire them to learn from you. And so I speak to you individually as you graduate from this program, that the world yet waits for you. Nigeria waits for you. I mean, look at the myriad of crises that we have, whether it's in the education sector or it's in the economic sector, the political, the governance system. in the technology space, financial, just name it. We are a country and a continent that must be in a hurry. We used to say we needed to be in a hurry before COVID. Imagine how much more urgent it is for us to be a people that will speedily take hold of the 21st century. Teaching, that which you have done, is clearly catalytical to where we should go. I end on the note that if we are indeed going to be the ones that define the 21st century, which, by the way, nobody can lay claim to yet, because all nations are having to go to the drawing board to figure out how the 21st century would look. So there's still time. And don't consider yourselves too immaterial to be the leaders of the new direction we must follow. You worked in communities, underserved communities, communities that are so underprivileged and not connected to the urban elite. So you actually have ideas of how we address issues of inequality and inequity. Don't take that for granted, because the world of the 21st century is a world that is going to struggle to redesign multilateral order. It would struggle to redesign the way that development is done, unlocking the potentials of communities, understanding the character and characteristics that shape the development process from the bottom. You've already gone there, courtesy of Teach for Nigeria. You really are a resource. Don't undersell yourselves by choosing an easy path. Your 2 years on this program were not easy. It was for purpose. So just stay purposeful and keep leading. Congratulations again. And I look forward to meeting you, because I do get to meet some of your other alums. And I'm usually immensely proud of them. And I know I'll be proud of you when I meet you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Obieze Kwesili. I mean, don't undersell yourselves, stay purposeful, and keep leading. That's very, very inspiring as far as I'm concerned. As part of Teach for Nigeria's graduation ceremony culture, we bring stakeholders such as pupils, parents, heads of schools, and partners to share their experiences with the graduating fellows. We have pre-recorded videos of some of these stakeholders talking about the impact TFM fellows have made in their classrooms and communities. Let's listen to some of their messages.
When I heard that my school will be giving TFN fellows, I was happy. I have seen them work in other schools before. I had contacts with them, and I've seen that they are very diligent, hardworking, and I was happy when I heard they were coming to my school.
When the Teach for Nigeria teachers came in fact, they brought so many new things for us. For example, how to relate with the pupils, their new method of teaching. They inculcated a habit of reading. If they are teaching their pupils, they will never release them until they understand what they are teaching them.
Within the last 2 years, there have been tremendous improvements in the rate at which the pupils in their care have improved.
My teacher, Mr. Kemini, has been teaching me for about 2 years. Before my teacher came, I did not know how to read, how to speak English well, and how to solve mathematics. But now I know how to speak English, how to boot the computer, how to do addition and subtraction in the Python. My teacher, Mr. Laleko, is a good teacher. He used to teach us very well. Sometimes he used to use pictures and videos to explain so that we can learn better. Whenever we don't understand, Mr. Eko goes to the extra mile to explain so that every one of us can understand. Sometimes he called us one after the other to his table so that he can teach us again.
Reading was a major challenge I had as a pupil. Thank you, Mr. Badri, for teaching me to overcome it.
My teacher, Mr. Stephen, helped my learning by teaching me with instructional materials.
My name is Ogad Sunday. I am always curious about the magic behind mechanical operations. I will not stop thinking, and one day I will become a great engineer.
I like my teacher, Miss Luna, because she's so nice to me. And whenever I ask her a question, she will answer me properly.
Mo rí àyípadà rere nínú ayé ọmọ mi. Lórí ẹ̀kọ́ ẹ̀ mo rí pé ìyípadà rere wà nínú ẹ̀. Lórí ìhùwàsí mo rí pé ìyípadà rere wà nínú ẹ̀. Nínú pé kí èèyàn máa ṣe fún ènìyàn. Mr. Lalekan try. Èmi gan tí wọ́n bá rí ọmọ yẹn gan wá wá wò nílé ọ kí wọ́n kọ́ mi pé kí ló dé táwọn ọ̀rẹ́ Olúwa jọ mí lójú o. Tọ́n bá ní teacher and try. Ṣé náà ń ṣe ọmọ mi gẹ́gẹ́ bíi pé ọmọ wọn ni.
Sátidé ó yàtọ̀ sí Sunday. Ẹ má pè mo pòwe. Ṣé ẹ rí ti Badri? Ẹyin. Ó dẹ̀ tún débí náà lórí àwọn ọmọ. A kọ́ wọn tán léèwé. A tún wá kọ́ wọn lé. Àwa dúpẹ́ lọ́rẹ̀ kọ́lọ́hún náà. Ó dẹ̀ jẹ́ kán ọmọ tiẹ̀ náà. Wọ́n rí gbèga o.
Miss Evu ṣe nǹkan láti fi ran ẹbí wa lọ́wọ́ o. Àwọn ìwé tó máa ń kà ó yàtọ̀ sí tìgbà tó wà ní nursery school tí mo fi mú kúrò wá sí government school. And ẹ̀kọ́ Miss Evu kọ́ ní ẹ̀kọ́ bíi pé bá ṣe lè bá àgbàlagbà sọ̀rọ̀ àti pé nínú ìwé ẹ̀ ó ṣe déédéé nígbà tí Miss Evu ń kọ́.
Látìgbà tí Miss Paulina ti dé sí Africa school yẹn gbogbo àwọn nǹkan tí wọn ò lè kà tí wọn ò lè kọ tí wọn ò lè speak gbogbo ẹ̀ ní àwọn ọmọ yẹn ṣe débi pé táwọn ọmọ yẹn náà bá wà ní àárín àwọn ọmọ nursery school tí wọ́n dé sílé kò sí òyìnbó tí wọ́n fẹ́ sọ táwọn ọmọ yẹn ò lè sọ so àti kàwé gan kò ní wọ́n lára rárá mọ́. Miss Paulina kì í ṣe teacher sáwọn ọmọ yẹn ó mú àwọn ọmọ yẹn gẹ́gẹ́ bí ká sọ pé ó ti bímọ rí bó ṣe ń train wọn gẹ́gẹ́ bí ká sọ pé ọmọ tó bí nínú ẹ̀ ló ṣe ń train àwọn ọmọ yẹn.
They have influenced myself and some teachers, especially their cooperating teachers. They have seen that they are very devoted.
As they are going, I don't know, I've started feeling their absence already. Because what they've been teaching our pupils, I mean our pupils, the learners, their cooperation with the teachers in the school.
Teacher tó lè máa ṣe bí ẹ̀yẹn fún ọmọ mi tí bá pàdé.
Ní ìgbà mìíràn tí àwọn ọmọ yẹn bá irú ọmọ mi tó bá ṣe birthday Mrs. F máa jẹ́ kí inú ẹ̀ dùn. Nígbà míì bí wọ́n ṣe children day o Mrs. F máa ń mú inú àwọn ọmọ yẹn dùn. Nígbà míì tá bá ń rò pé àwọn ohun tó fi ń gbóúnjẹ lọ school ti tó change nígbà Mrs. F máa ti change ẹ̀ fún wọn tí wọ́n bá máa fi dé. Ìgbà míì tá bá fún wọn lówó lọ sí school àwọn ọmọ yẹn á dá padà. Kí ló dé tẹ́ dá padà? Wọ́n ní Mrs. F ló fún àwọn ní nǹkan táwọn lò ní school bíi biscuits.
I'm Salami Tajuddin Bolaniwa. So for a young man to live town and be living with pupils here is highly commendable. It's serious sacrifice.
Nǹkan tó ṣe náà yá àwọn ọmọ yẹn náà yá àwọn ọmọ tèmi gan tó wà lọ́dọ̀ ẹ̀ mi lè gbàgbé ẹ̀ o torí kò kà wọ́n pé mo wá ṣe teacher jẹ́ kí n kàn gba sálárì mi kí n máa lọ kò ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ ó ń kọ́ wọn gidigidi ká sọ pé òun náà ti ń train ọmọ bó ṣe ń tọ́jú wọn nìyẹn so inú mi dùn gan lórí pé bó ṣe kọ́ àwọn ọmọ mi inú mi dùn gidi gan.
I will miss how he used to play with us. I am always free to say my mind. I will miss how I used to press his phone.
One thing I miss about my teacher is how he sang while we are learning and how he shows his funny faces.
I would like to say he should not leave. He's nice to us. I would like to thank him for all he has done for us. He bought us school bag, water bottles, pencils, pens. I'd like to tell him thank you.
There's no doubt about it that the impact that teachers on placement in Ogun State, the impact they have had
has been very, very positive. Now, when I say positive, they've been able to shine light into education in Ogun State. And I'll give you an example. We've had schools where we've had people on placement, and they've actually gone out of their ways to see how they can inject use of ICT into schools. Not only that, bringing in good ideas, working collaboratively with the team, it makes a difference, really. So I really want to thank them. They've been able to bring in new ideas, new innovations into classes, and I have to thank them for creativity that they have brought into our classes. It makes them to stand out.
Well, I'll pray for them because they've exercised and exhibited all that one will expect such partners. You are partners, they are partners in progress, and I know Ogun State is very thankful and of course proud of the teachers we've been having, and that's why it's a relationship, or rather a partnership that works. We are proud of them, and I'm sure the management of Teach Nigeria must be proud of them too, because they are really good ambassadors of Teach for Nigeria.
The graduating class of 2021, I seriously have to commend all of you, congratulate all of you. We're very, very proud of you. Keep up the fantastic work. You deserve to be celebrated today, and that's why I'm joining the Nigerian team to say, indeed, the best awaits you in all your future endeavors, and keep it going. Continue to make it creative, and continue to work collaboratively with all the team members. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you to you because you have groomed me up in everything.
You're watching live broadcast of Teach for Nigeria 2021 graduation on PlusTvAfrica. You can be part of this event or join the conversation via social media with the hashtag TFN 2021 graduation. Now, the Teach for Nigeria Fellowship is a transformational leadership journey. In the second year of the program, fellows are expected to implement social impact projects called Be the Change Project, aimed at addressing challenges from education, or rather facing education. The 2021 Be the Change Grant Award was sponsored by Dr. Mrs. Bosede Hepzibah Akinsomi. Dr. Mrs. Akinsomi retired as a director at the Federal Ministry of Education. Prior to this, she served as an excelling award-winning educator for over 25 years. 20 of these years, she served in many roles, including as teacher, head of department, head of academic services, house mistress, amongst other roles at Queen's College, Yaba, Lagos. A dedicated servant leader, Dr. Mrs. Bosede Hepzibah Akinsomi, served as a pastor and evangelist with Mountain of Fire and Miracles Ministry, an international Christian organization. She led the organization's monitoring team, a group that coordinates, supervises, and ensures that the ministry's strategic vision is successfully implemented. As a representative, she also directed the organization's community revitalization efforts to provide food, medicine, and other welfare needs for rural and poor communities. An adopted mother to many and wife to late Dr. Eniola Olajide Akinsomi, Dr. Mrs. Akinsomi is the biological mother to 6 high-achieving children and beloved grandma to 11 kids. She is the author of multiple books reflecting her expertise in theology, the English language, and literature. Going on 80, she continues to live a thriving servant leader life, committed to being the change she wants to see in the education sector and in her daily life. Let's invite her daughter, Titi Akinsomi, lead government affairs and public policy, West and Francophone Africa, Google, to announce the 2021 Outstanding Be the Change Project Award nominees.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Teach for Nigeria Board, ambassadors, sponsors, staff, and our amazing graduating class. It is an honor to be here today. My name is Titi Akinsomi, and I am the Global Lead for Policy on Assistance for Google. I am truly humbled to have this opportunity to address a unique set of young, outstanding Nigerians who have committed their lives to lead transformational change in the country's education sector. To the graduating fellows of 2021, I say congratulations on the successful completion of your fellowship program. We are proud of how much impact you have made over the last 2 years in your placement schools and communities, particularly over 2020. Through your active participation in the fellowship, you have exemplified the attributes of a servant leader, showing empathy, bravery, resilience, and a strong commitment to the development of the Nigerian child. I am inspired by your determination to build on the work of Teach for Nigeria through your diverse, innovative solutions that produce sustainable change in the communities you serve. This year, members of the Teach for Nigeria graduating class implemented 18 Be the Change projects across diverse areas such as teacher training, library classroom renovation projects, art projects, as well as digital literacy projects, to mention a few. Usually, the Be the Change Award recognizes fellows whose Be the Change projects reflect impact, innovation, and sustainability, with a cash prize of 250,000 naira. However, this year, in recognition of the many decades of service of an educator, Mrs. Bosede Hefsiba Akinsami, my mother, we will be giving cash prizes worth 1 million naira to the top 4 projects. This is to appreciate their contribution towards improving learning outcomes of children in low-income communities. Having thoroughly considered the various intervention projects, here are the top 10. Child Mentorship Network, Smart Garden Initiative, Digital TISA, TFN Creative Kids Art Club, Alpha Siri Project, First Step Initiative, Iyaniwura, Digit Lab, Digital Literacy for Learners, and, not the least, Child Health Initiative. Greetings.
Before we announce the winner, here is a brief background of the top 4 projects. The Alpha Siri project, that's by Precious Adegunle and Judith Ezedimbo, set up Alpha Siri in Baptist Primary School, Ijebu-Ode, and FHE Primary School, Olomore, Abeokuta, with the goal to enhance learning outcomes, digital literacy development, and 21st century skills among learners. Precious and Judith have raised over 1.3 million naira in funding to set up digital libraries across both schools, serving approximately 1,206 pupils. The digital libraries are fully set up with furniture, laptops, a television, books, and other electronic gadgets, which can accommodate a class size of 100 students in one sitting. Precious and Judith also leveraged the support of teachers, parents, and community leaders such as the traditional chief of Ogogbo, who supported the project with a donation of 12 additional laptops to the Learning Hub in Ijebu-Ode. Now to the second one, which is Smart Garden Initiative. Akintayo Zainab, Bamigbade Gafar, Michael Toriyila, Oyedele Mubarak, and Atobatele Abdul Wakil started Smart Garden Initiative with the aim of improving household food security for low-income families in underserved communities through the establishment of school gardens. Zainab and her team provided basic training to pupils on how to use simple household materials, improved seeds, and organic manure to grow healthy vegetables, while providing them with materials such as seeds, organic compost, and other planting materials, which they use to establish backyard gardens in their homes. With this, pupils and their households can have access to healthy vegetables and also make profits from the sale of excess. Zainab and her team have successfully set up school gardens in 3 public primary schools, serving 300 pupils and 150 households across Ogun State. Now, First Step Initiative. Akim Badru implemented First Step Initiative in Local Government Primary School 1, Ijagba, Shagamu, Baptist Primary School, Abeokuta, and St. Michael's School, Ogunpa, Lunloye, with the aim of building the creative skills of learners. Akim Badru invested over 200,000 naira to train 250 pupils across 5 schools with skills in model and craft making. First Step initiative trained pupils in auto modeling and aviation modeling. It also challenged, developed, and the critical thinking and curiosity skills of the targeted learners. Akim Badru leveraged the support of some of his colleagues, school heads, and parents to drive the successful implementation of his set-out objectives. And the last but not definitely the least is TFN Creative Kids Art Club. The TFN Creative Kids Art Club was founded in 2018 by 2 TFN alumni, Moses Stephen and Linda Okpara, with a goal to create a platform where children in underserved communities can explore and express their innate creative abilities through art. Olalekon Abiola extended the vision of TFN Creative Kids Art Club to his pupils in local government area primary school, Ijagba, Shagamu. Olalekon Abiola set up weekly activities to teach and engage pupils in different genres of art, ranging from drawing to painting and wire works. Through partnerships with Peace First, he purchased art learning materials. More than 150 students have been impacted by this initiative. And now let's hear the winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2021 Teach for Nigeria Outstanding Be the Change Project Award goes to TFN Creative Kids Art Club, led by Olalekon Abiola, winning a cash prize of 350,000 naira. Smart Garden Initiative is the first runner-up with a cash prize of 300,000 naira. Alpha Siri is the second runner-up with a cash prize of 200,000 naira. While First Step Initiative is the third runner-up with a cash prize of 150,000 naira. Congratulations to you, and congratulations again to the entire graduating class of 2021.
Thank you, Titi. Now, judging by the entries, it was a keen competition indeed. It's time to hear from the winner, a winner among winners, Olalekon Abiola. Hi, Olalekon, you have to unmute yourself. Olalekon, kindly unmute yourself. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. All protocol duly observed. I wish to say thank you so much for Teach for Nigeria for giving us the opportunity and the platform to lead and to be able to express our idea, for the support, for the mentorship. I'm so glad, I'm so happy right now. This project came, we just have it in mind that we want to give children the opportunity, the foundation for them to learn how to be creative, how to think critically, and how to do things in a unique way. And I tell you that it came with a lot of challenges. It came with a lot of uncertainty, but I'm glad at the support that Teach for Nigeria gave us and our coaches, our leadership development manager. And I want to especially say thank you to everyone who, because we didn't achieve this feat alone, we had people who supported us with materials and with support, cash support, and with human resource. So I want to say thank you so much to everyone. I want to say thank you to the CEO for Olawe Omikule, to the staff and the board members at Teach for Nigeria. Everybody want to say thank you. And now more than ever, we are inspired. We're inspired to do more, and we'll continue to do more until one day when we see that every Nigerian child will have access to excellent education. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olaleko. Thank you for being the change. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is important to note that Dr. Hepzibah Akinsomi has committed to sponsoring Teach for Nigeria's Be the Change Outstanding Award Prize with a cash prize of 3 million naira over the next 3 years. On behalf of Teach for Nigeria and the impact this sponsorship will have, I say thank you to Dr. Mrs. Akinsomi. We do appreciate your passion towards quality education in Nigeria. Now, it's time to let the voice of the children do the talking. Personally, I have looked forward to this segment where we get to hear the eloquent words of a Teach for Nigeria pupil, Morire Oshoko, a pupil from Moshood Abiola Primary School, Abeokuta, Ogun State. It's time for some poetry.
Education. Some say education is the key to a great life. Others ask, with education, what can you be? Distress and trouble, all for a certificate. Really? Certificates with no guarantee for job, they say. Well, we can only speak based on our experiences. For me, Morire, education is light. With education, I have been given hope to fight for my tomorrow that is bright. It is education that inspired the child of a common purpose like me to want to become a medical doctor in my own right. Education is the light that led my path to cross with that of Miss Adebingwe, who has transformed my life in ways words cannot capture. For me, education is both a lens and a vehicle. Through education, I see a bright future that ignorance cannot reveal. Through education, I see a future with endless possibilities. It is in the vehicle of education that I am driving toward the future. Chill, in a matter of time, I will arrive and you will all hear of me.
We are truly driving in the vehicle of education to the future we desire. Thank you, Morire, for that beautiful poetry. Whether you're watching this event on television, via Zoom or YouTube, we appreciate your presence. Keep up with the program on social media using the hashtag TFN 2021 graduation. We have met the graduates and even the students. We have seen them in action, performing poetry and executing progressive projects. Now to hear from one amongst them who will endeavor to capture the minds of all our valedictorians, we invite Precious Adegunle to give the valedictorian speech. But before we do that, let's go on a very short break and we'll be right back.
Teach for Nigeria was established in 2016, inspired by the vision that one day all Nigerian children would have access to an excellent education. Teach for Nigeria takes a unique approach to eliminating educational inequity by enlisting Nigeria's most promising future leaders in the effort. As the first and only organization to partner with young leaders from diverse academic backgrounds in an extended service initiative, we recruit, train, and support outstanding graduates and professionals as fellows to deliver an excellent education in under-resourced Nigerian schools. Teach for Nigeria has grown substantially in its 4 years of operation, from a pilot program of 44 fellows in its first year to recruiting a total of 713 fellows by its 4th year. Our current cohort of 464 outstanding graduates teaching as full-time teachers in public, primary, and secondary schools across Lagos and Ogun states, working daily to improve the educational and life prospects of over 40,000 students. We have successfully proven that outstanding young leaders in Nigeria with adequate training and support can make an impact in the lives of children in under-resourced schools. To accelerate our vision of an an excellent education for all children in Nigeria, we launched several initiatives during the COVID-19 pandemic. We started the Teach for Nigeria Radio School to ensure learning continued for children in marginalized communities. Today, the TFN Radio School provides complimentary educational content to over 60,000 primary school learners across Ogun State and other neighboring states.
Today, I'm incredibly honored to be here, representing the 2019 cohort of Teach for Nigeria Fellows. It's an honor because this is hands down the most amazing, resilient, and most inspiring group of young leaders I have ever come across. So thank you for the privilege. I'm going to start at the beginning. In 2019, like many other fellows in this cohort, I was faced with a very difficult decision to either continue life as I knew it or to take the brave decision to join Teach for Nigeria. And to be candid, life as I knew it then was not especially glamorous, but I was very comfortable. I had a comfortable job, I had a comfortable life, my friends and family were around me, so the potential was limitless. But I was unfulfilled, I was unsatisfied, I felt like I could be doing more and I should be doing more. And so, like many of the people in this cohort, we joined Teach for Nigeria. And for the last 2 years, we've been teaching and impacting the lives of kids in low-income communities across Ogun State. And I wish I could sit here and tell you that it was a bed of roses, but in reality, these past 2 years have been the most jarring, intense, and challenging years of our lives. The issues we met were not just literacy and numeracy like we anticipated. We met kids suffering from poverty, hunger, malnutrition, sick kids who could not afford health care, and so on. And we're still dealing with these issues in a classroom setting. Then we had to battle with the mother load of extraordinary situations, COVID-19. So imagine you're complaining about traffic in Ijebu-Ode or Abuja, then you come to Lagos. That was exactly how it was. The pandemic put a halt to all the good work we'd been doing in our classroom, and it widened the gap we're trying to close. But when that happened, this group of amazing leaders did not let that deter them. No, we found innovative ways to continue even when schools were shut down. We quickly developed workbooks that we shared to our learners. Some fellows started to do audio and video classes online, and we shared them to parents who could afford smartphones. I personally raised over ₦1 million to get phone tablets for all the 35 kids in my classroom so learning could continue. And when school resumed fully, we continued our work, and we even added on Be the Change projects like we just heard to drive the impacts we were making in our classroom and communities. We did all this and more, not for the parade or for the recognition or for the applause. We did it because it was the right thing to do. And now going forward, that is our mantra, choosing to do the right thing. That is how success should be measured. And the right thing might not necessarily be teaching, but you know you're doing the right thing when you're helping people and impacting lives. As I bring my speech to a close, I just want us to examine ourselves, everyone attending, everyone listening to me, and examine your motives and choose to do the right thing. Like I said, it does not have to be teaching, but whatsoever the right thing to do is a brave decision, and it means that every day you have to confront society's definition of success and redefine it. Make sure that whatever you are doing, in whatsoever capacity, is helping people and impacting lives. Make sure that you don't allow the world's definition of success to hold you and prevent you from moving in the direction of love. Make sure you live for a cause bigger than yourself. That is how myself and every other fellow that is graduating here, how we've lived for the past 2 years. And like I said, it won't be easy. But when you're scared and you do it anyway, it's called bravery. So a very big thank you to TFN for this wonderful platform. Thank you to the management. Thank you to the board. Thank you to our CEO, the staff, all our pupils, our partner schools, and every single stakeholder that I cannot possibly mention. Thank you and congratulations to the graduating class.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for living for a dream that is bigger than you, like you said. Thank you very much. Now we invite Temitope Ifegbeson, President of Teach for Nigeria Alumni Community, to share a few words with our valedictorians as they join the distinguished alumni network for Teach for Nigeria.
Board, management, coaches, staff, distinguished guests, graduating fellows, ladies and gentlemen. It is my delight to be here on this beautiful occasion to celebrate Teach for Nigeria's class of 2021. My dear graduating fellows, congratulations on your successful completion of the Teach for Nigeria Fellowship Program. I was one of your program coordinators at your pre-service training institute in 2019. Looking back at how far you have come, I am in awe of your growth and excited about the impact of the work you have been doing in your classrooms and placement communities, particularly how you have shown leadership by supporting kids who lack access to online technologies to learn while they remain safe at home in the face of the recent global pandemic. You implemented a total of 18 social impact projects ranging from digital, art, nutritional and women empowerment interventions, among others, reaching 3,000 beneficiaries in Ogun State. How inspiring. Well done. It is the end of your fellowship journey, but more importantly, the beginning of your leadership journey. Yes, you heard me. This is the beginning of your actual leadership, the one that will have a wider reach than the leadership you exhibited during your fellowship. Many alumni who had gone ahead of you are demonstrating this wider reach leadership in their various spheres of influence. Dean and Boss's Child Support Initiative has provided menstrual pad banks for 7,000 girls across 53 schools in Lagos, Ogun, and Kaduna states. Samuel Oyeledo's leading Buka clan and Abdullah Ibrahim's No Box initiative both received siege funding from Teach for Nigeria's Integration Hub program and are now making impact through their initiatives in northern Nigeria. Aramide received a past scholarship and leveraged crowdfunding to raise funds to study at Harvard University. Linda Opara currently leads TFN's radio school program, which provides learning to over 60,000 children in Ogun State. Tosin Jadola's EduSite provides vocational skills training to women in underserved communities in Kaduna State. I could go on and on talking about Bright's EduSorts, Henry's Sharing Life Africa, Oluwa's Sharing School Linker, and much more. Currently, 52% of Teach for Nigeria's alumni are actively working in the education ecosystem, tackling the inequities from different sides. The world is waiting for you to start to disrupt systems. The alumni community is willing to support you and promote your work, irrespective of the sector you decide to work in, be it education, leadership, social business, entrepreneurship, private sector, multinationals, working for non-profits, government, or in policy. We will be with you in your transition process. At this point, I would like to emphasize that a coalition of leaders is required across different pathways to advocate for education. So irrespective of what you want to do, you must remain resilient in your support for education. Again, I heartily congratulate you on your brilliant, brilliant success. And on this note, I warmly welcome you into the Teach for Nigeria alumni community. With you being part of the TFN alumni community, the largest among the African network partners, I look forward to all the amazing feats we will achieve across the country, the continent, and the globe. Class of 2021, happy graduation to you. Stay outstanding.
Thank you. Now, as part of this year's graduation ceremony, we would like to acknowledge Akim Badru, a graduating fellow with the Gbenga and Aishat Oyebode Award and a cash prize of 1 million naira for his commitment towards ensuring that the children in the remote Ogunpa community are able to learn despite the poor living condition. Let's take a look at this video, and just after that, Mr. Oyebode would do us the honors of presenting this award.
I came to this school on 20th of September 2017. Coming to this particular village during this particular era requires somebody who are determined to do it. But there are many reasons to go back. Just last week I was coming, the bag that was bringing me down, at a point, the bag had to stop, that it's not going any longer. I had to come down, trek for over an hour. I told the bike man that if you are going back, I can't go back, because I have children who are waiting for me. But if I go back, learning will stop for that particular week. There was even a time I came around, there was no canoe by the river bank. They've all gone to the farm. I have to take the risk of crossing the river, walking through the river with my bags on my head. I have to pull off my trousers and put it on my head and walk through the river, just because if I fail to come for a week, learning will stop. And there's no one to give them that particular teaching experience.
I'm Salami Tajuddin Bolaniwa. So for a young man to leave town and be living with pupils here is highly commendable. It's serious sacrifice.
Saturday ó yàtọ̀ sí Sunday, ẹ má pè mo pòwe. Ṣé ti bá dúrì? Ó dẹ̀ tún débí náà lórí àwọn ọmọ. A kọ́ wọn tán léèwé, a tún wá kọ́ wọn nílé. Àwa dúpẹ́ lọ́rẹ̀ kọ́lọ́hun náà, ó dẹ̀ jẹ́ kán ọmọ tiẹ̀ náà.
My paper Mubadala. Over the years, I've always had this feeling that the conventional educational process has failed us. The method of memorizing facts and inculcating it has failed us. So as a paper modeler, I believe engaging pupils to create a model that's charging their creativity potential, igniting their curiosity and inclusiveness. If we want to achieve technological breakthrough in Nigeria, we have to produce children who are thinking, not children who are just memorizing facts.
My name is Ogad Sunday. I am always curious about the magic behind mechanical operations. I will not stop thinking, and one day I will become a great engineer.
Is Darasimi Ayenu. I am a pupil of St. Michael RCM Primary School, Ogunpanulori. I am in primary 5. Really was a major challenge I had as a pupil. Thank you, Mr. Badri, for teaching me to overcome it.
Thank you and congratulations to Akim Badru for all he's doing. Now we invite the chairman of Teach for Nigeria, Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, to present this award.
Fellows of Teach for Nigeria are outstanding leaders. One of the reasons, if you look at the trajectory of Teach for All, what's important to us is essentially leadership and our teaching ability. So today, what we're celebrating in Mr. Akim Badru, and I really don't have to describe it, you've seen the video, is his going way beyond the call of duty. His ability to impact on the rural, underserved community where he was working, the testimony of the children, the testimony of the parents, the testimonies of his fellow teachers, his unbounding commitment to the community through thick and thin, the realization that without him, there would be very little in that community. So for me, that's outstanding leadership. The kind of change that we need on the continent, the kind of change that we need in our country, the kind of change that all of us speak about, but sometimes are not able to capture. That's what we see in Mr. Badru's commitment to the community where he served. So for me, that's outstanding. Outstanding anywhere in the world. his commitment shows that not just his devotion to duty, but the fact that he stands ready to change lives, to change the trajectory of the children that he taught. And more importantly, I would say very quickly that this kind of outstanding leadership, this kind of servant leadership, if I can put it that way, is really what we need on the continent of Africa, in Nigeria particularly, to get us past where we are today. So for me, I'm particularly proud to be standing here today. Mr. Badiru, please. Yes. I'm particularly proud to be here with Mr. Badiru today to really celebrate him, but I really to be able to say, not just to him, but to all alumni of Teach For All, to all our fellows, to all intending fellows who are applying to join us, that this is what we expect of you. This is this kind of outstanding leadership that we celebrate in the sum of 1 million naira. And the 1 million naira, as far as I'm concerned, is a token. This is not really the commitment that he made, as evidenced by that video, is way beyond what 1 million, and people will notice, and that some of us are ready to not just compensate, but really to recognize. So, Mr. Badiru, thank you very, very much for your outstanding commitment to Teach for Nigeria, to, more importantly, to your students. I think they are the ones who really will celebrate you. They continue to celebrate you. And I'm very happy to be here to be giving you this award.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Badiru, thank you very, very much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Great. So I think we're going to have Mr. Badiru say a few words. As
few words
on receiving the award. So, Dawn, I can take that for you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm deeply honored to receive this award. I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Oyebode, and your wife and the family for this opportunity, and particularly to Teach for Nigeria for making me go through this, and for giving this opportunity to serve my community, to serve my children, and to serve Nigeria as a whole. I'm most grateful. I'm most grateful. Thank you very much. A lot of words. Just thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oyebode, and thank you very much, Akim, for serving your community. Now it's definitely time to invite someone I call the passionate, the dynamic CEO of Teach for Nigeria, Folawe Omikunle, to give the vote of thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Good afternoon and good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe that we've come to the end of this really inspiring graduation ceremony and alumni induction. Really, my role here today is very simple, and I'm very excited and I'm honored to be offering the vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of the board of Teach for Nigeria, ambassadors of Teach for Nigeria, and the entire management and staff of Teach for Nigeria, I extend my deepest gratitude to you all, and particularly to the commencement speaker, Dr. Mrs. Obi Esekwesili, for sharing her graceful and truly inspiring words with all of us here today. It has been our utmost pleasure and delight to host all our guests, our audience, all of you who are watching online, cohort of fellows who served their 2,200 plus learners during the pandemic. They resumed with them when the schools reopened, and they transitioned them back to traditional teaching and learning, even post the pandemic. What an incredible fit. Our communities, our children, our nation are fortunate to have had all 44 of you. They're fortunate to have worked alongside you to teach, inspire, lead, and impact during one of the world's most disruptive era. Again, I say congratulations, Congratulations, congratulations on completing this feat. Teach for Nigeria only exists today as a result of collective effort by a group of diverse, committed, and generous individuals. And these individuals continue to make our mission possible. And we truly recognize that we would not be here today without the support of our champions, our allies, our partners, our friends, and our donors. So I'd like to take this moment to extend my generous thanks to really congratulate, and congratulate again our newest graduates, the amazing and inspiring, incredible class of 2021 alumni. Welcome to the alumni community. Welcome to the alumni network. To all our existing fellows and alumni, to the Ogun State government led by His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun, to the State Universal Basic Education Board, Ogun State, to the Lagos State government led by His Excellency Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the Ministry of Education Lagos, the Teaching Service Commission Lagos, the members of Board of Teach for Nigeria, the ambassadors of Teach for Nigeria, to all our donors who make our work possible, we say a big thank you. And to the ever-committed and incredible members of staff of Teach for Nigeria, who have remained tenacious, dedicated, and consistent to unlocking the potential of every child in Nigeria, we say thank you. What a beautiful and inspiring ceremony we've had today, which wouldn't have been possible without our incredible planning committee and alumni development unit led by the only Tele, Odutola, and Dane. And to you all who have joined us here today, we say a big thank you. Thank you all so much for joining, and we look forward to welcoming you again next year to our graduation and alumni induction ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you. You have been watching the live broadcast of Teach for Nigeria 2021 graduation on PlusTvAfrica. I know you have been inspired and challenged as I have. Congratulations to our valedictorians, pupils, and mentors. We look forward to many more graduations and a showcasing of future exploits by those who we believe will play a pivotal part in building up our nation on solid foundations. My name is Elsie Godwin, and it's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Follow at Teach for Nigeria on all social media platforms. The conversation continues on social media, and the hashtag is TFN 2021 graduation. Don't forget to teach, lead, and impact. And when words fail us to round off a memorable occasion such as this, perhaps putting them to music might be a more effective means of communication. Sit back and enjoy the Teach for Nigeria theme song by the graduating fellows to mark the 2021 graduation.
There are cohorts of teacher leaders driven by vision and purpose. We are passionate and committed to lead, to teach, and to impact. Won't you join us now? Won't you join the train to make Nigeria a better place? Won't you join us now? Won't you join the train to make Nigeria a better place? Teach for Nigeria.
Leaders of tomorrow.
for me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, you know, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, you know, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Nigeria, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Nigeria is Africa's wealthiest and most populous nation, with the fastest growing economy. Agriculture contributes 25.2% of the gross domestic product. But currently, there's food insecurity in the country. Food insecurity in Nigeria is continuously being aggravated by many factors, including communal conflicts and the COVID-19 pandemic. The presence of militant groups like Boko Haram, in addition to violent clashes between herders and farmers, has further compounded the problem. Large-scale displacement and insecurity in parts of Adamawa, Benue, Nasarawa, Plateau, and Taraba hinder farming as well as herding and drive up food prices. The conflict's roots lie in climate-induced degradation of pasture and increasing violence in the country's far north, which have forced herders down south.
So there was a time I, leased land from the government in Ogun State. There's a palm plantation. So they had this, they have like over hundreds of hectares just, there. So they were leasing it out. So I leased about 20 hectares and I decided to start with 4 hectares. I planted cassava, a trailer load of cassava. And I did pick 1 naira from there because herdsmen, they went there, they harvested them for their animals and even burnt the whole place down. And the government, who is supposed to be my landlord, could not save me from them.
Now they don't come with cattle because their original agenda was not even to graze. It was to kill, to destroy our homes and occupy the land. That was their original agenda. Now that the law is working very hard, they are after our livestock guard, wherever they are, and their parents, they go about killing them.
With clashes from headsmen or assault from bandits, farmers flee their farms. They can't plant, and if they can't plant, essentials like maize become scarce, which has a ripple effect on feed for poultry and fish.
We have found it difficult to buy feed. It's so expensive now, and that is affecting selling the end products. If we used to sell chickens 2,000, 2,500, now we are selling at 4,500, and we are not even making profits. But because they are livestock, you have to keep feeding them, borrowing to feed them. And at the end of the day, the market women are not buying, or they are pricing it far, far below cost price. So it's really, say, oh, there's no maize, there's no soya. So what do? But we keep buying. We can't say there's a scarcity, so we stop the business. You stop your poultry, what do you want to do next?
There is no improvement on it, because there is no improvement. Yes, nothing is, it's even getting worse. Because even during the epidemic, last year, feed they were still buying it 6,000 plus. But now, we are buying it 7,000 plus. Is there any improvement there?
Oúnjẹ tá ń rà láti 4,300 kí pandemic dé wọ́n sọ di 4,700. Àwọn ètò cheap jù nìyẹn o. Ṣùgbọ́n ní báyìí tá ń báyìí sọ̀rọ̀ 6,500. Báwo la ṣe fẹ́ ṣe? ó wá di pé à ń ta ẹja tí ò yẹ kó tí ì tó à ń fi ń bọ ẹja tí ẹja bá ṣe oṣù mẹ́ta àbọ̀ báyìí èyí táwọn ègún máa ń tà tó máa ń yan ní sáìzì yẹn 3 for 1 kilo 4 for 1 kilo àwa di pé à ń tà láti rí owó ẹ̀ lò láti fi bọ́ àwọn ètò wà ní odò whereas kò yẹ kó rí bẹ́ẹ̀ nítorí ìgbà tí mo bẹ̀rẹ̀ kí pandemic mo máa ń já oúnjẹ ẹja mo lè já 60 mo lè já 100 whereas mi ò tó bẹ́ẹ̀ báyìí.
There's no maize, there's no soya. Those are the main components of livestock feed. No maize, even the little they have up there in the north, they are bringing them down. They will tell us, oh, the trailer has been seized by the Fulani people fighting or Boko Haram. So you now get, in fact, a friend of mine called me. Her chickens are dying. I said, why would your chickens die? We took them to the lab. It turns out that, you know, you process the maize to a certain extent before you mill it for feed. Now they are now using fresh maize, untreated. You understand? To mill the feed, which is not the proper ingredient, the quality maize that you need. But will you leave your chickens to die or starve? You can't give them gari or beans. Is that maize, soya, fish meal and all that make up? So,
according to the CADA Harmonized Report released in 2020, 13.8 million people will be facing acute food shortage crisis between June and August 2021. It said the number could grow to about 14 million if measures are not taken in time to avert the hunger crisis. Some farmers are discouraged.
Many of them, they are quitting. Like last year, I went to Ayobo to pack bears. Since then, I asked, boy, you should replace. And they say, I know that even this one, there is no profit. He did calculation, no profit. So he stepped down. And I've been to farms to pack bears for processing. Many of them, they are not into it. As at now, bears are not really available, are not in stock. Especially small and medium scale farmers. Because they need the finance, need help from government to finance it, to help them. Because with the cost of things, DOC, that's a day old of broilers. Most of the young youths, they are the one I'm talking of now. They are youths. They stock 200, 150, 300. But they have discouraged now because they are not making it. Because the expectation is not met. After spending money, time to take care of the chicken, at the end, no profit. I mean, they are quitting.
Women make up to 70% of the Nigerian agricultural labor force. So PlusTvAfrica spoke with 3 members of the Small Scale Women Farmers Organization of Nigeria, SWOFUN, about accessing the loan.
I was opportunity to benefit from a CBN loan through NAXA Microfinance. So with the cost of things, materials, feed, in fact, the loan is even ineffective.
How much did you get from NAXA?
3.5, which it didn't go anywhere. With the cost of things, even if not that I have my own capital, it will not go anywhere. Can't even buy the most of the things I needed, like generator now. Generator is 3 point something, which I'm even trying to get. That was one of the things I even processing. So even though DOC, when we were applying for it, DOC that time was 180, 200. That's a point of, that's a day old for broilers. But now it's 450. That time it was from 180. I even applied. I said 180 or so, or 200. By the time the loan came out, it was 420. 380. So I could not really, the loan was almost ineffective. It didn't go anywhere.
Ó ṣòro púpọ̀ láti rí owó yẹn gbà, gbogbo ọ̀nà láti gbowó yẹn ó ṣòro. Ṣùgbọ́n torí pé tèmi ò pọ̀, kò ṣòro. Àwọn tí owó wọn pọ̀ bíi mílíọ̀nù 10, gbogbo nǹkan tó ní kó mú wá ó fi ṣòro. Àwọn tó máa ní kó ṣe gàrántọ̀ fún wọn, kó fi ilé ṣe gàrántọ̀, kó fi gbá ṣe gàrántọ̀. Tó bá tún wá ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ tán, wọn ò tún tètè gbé ilé wọn lọ́wọ́. Ìgbà tó fún mi ní tó gé owó yẹn kù, ó dùn láti fẹnu sọ. Ẹni tí ò ní tó dẹ̀ fẹ́ ṣiṣẹ́, tó mọ iṣẹ́, kò jẹ́ náà wọn ò gbà. Àti pé tí ò bá ń ṣe pé COVID pandemic tó jáde ni, dandan ni kí kó ti bí nǹkan re. Ṣùgbọ́n pẹ̀lú pandemic yẹn gbogbo ẹ̀ lọ. Lẹ́yìn náà ni EndSARS, lẹ́yìn náà ni gbogbo àwọn nǹkan tí ó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ tá a fojú kò.
Nigeria's food imports have been rising. Higher food import figures entail higher foreign exchange demand and dire consequences for the local farmer, who most times, due to the cost of production, can't compete with the prices.
Since the open border, it is affecting us. Because we process our own. When we get to the farm, packed, processed. By the time, after calculation, we have to put at least, as at now, we're selling 13,000 for 10 kg, 6,500 for 5 kg. But when we get to cold rooms, as I said, the other people from Cotonou, they are supplied them for 12,000. By the time we calculate our own, there is no profit. We can't sell at that price. That is one of the challenges we are facing in the processing sector.
Nigerians witnessed an average of 66.8% increase in the price of food items between February 2020 and March 2021. This is according to the recently conducted Datafied Food Price Survey.
We want things to come down, that we poor people can be able to afford. Rice now, we cannot afford rice, talk less of Gary. We are suffering. They should temper justice with mercy. We are suffering. We cannot buy a cup of rice for our children to eat, talk less of yam. Even potato, you cannot afford it. It's too expensive. So government to look into that area and bring food things down. They should bring it down.
Now everything roundabout, if you want buy roundabout now, we want chop and we go better. Buy 2,000 naira. 3,000 when they said for 1,000 before is 2,000 now. Shaki when they say 1,000, 1,500 now. Everything now. So our body 1,500 for one piece is like this. Shaki 3,000 on the thing when they said 2,000 before is 3,000.
Fish, crayfish, if it even ugu, no way. Everything just decreased like that.
The impact of insecurity on agri-produce is affecting everyone and not just the farmer. The women state some of their challenges and what they need from the government.
Let me say in a week, we spend like 5,000. Why? Because we hardly have electricity here. So if you want to change water for the fish, which is like every other day, and this is just 2 ponds you saw, every other day we change the water. So we need to pump water. They can't function well in a dirty environment, the dirty water. Then for the chicken themselves, you can't take any gutter water and give them. You just lose them. So luckily I have this borehole. Even to maintain the other day I put the pressure, it's not working. I've called the man, he came yesterday, he has to buy this, he has to buy that. I said, hold on. So I was still getting the water, but it's faster when I want to fill the tank. Instead of spending 1 hour, I can spend like 20 minutes if the pressure is there. So we are really spending a lot on generator, not just the electricity, because the NEPA is not there. And the generator that has to carry it is not a small one. That, if not, the pumping machine itself will burn. In a week now, I buy, we are prepaid. I buy 5,000 cards on maybe Friday evening. By Thursday, you'll be hearing it will be beeping. Your money has gone down. Because we are using it to pump water. It's actually the federal government that should help us out. The farmers didn't go to farm 1 whole year. They should really come to our aid. It's not just giving us money. I'm not interested. Provide, if maize is available, I don't see why a country like Nigeria will not have silos. We have the land, we have the manpower. Why are we not encouraging our populace to farm? So if they can encourage our youth, retired people, job, we say unemployment, when there's land. But you are not encouraging. In this modern day, somebody will take cutlass and hoe, and you want to farm, let's say even just one plot of land. It's stressful. We have machineries. We can bring machineries in. Even if it's to pay a token, it's for the federal government. We want to mow 5 hectares of land. It's easier. They are planting machines for corn. They are harvesters. It's available. So you don't tell a university graduate to come and farm. You start cutting grass and digging call malam to dig. How long? Nobody. It's not. It just looks as if you are wasting your time. So what do we have? University graduates. They are all now yahoo, looking for faster means of income. Meanwhile, there's a joyful way of earning money.
Owó iná tún ni problem wà báyìí. Nítorí prepaid ni mò ń lò. Tí ẹ bá ṣí owó tá ń ná fún iná, ó bu àyà. Mò ń ná 10 to 12,000 ní oṣù. Because ẹja, nǹkan tí ẹja need ni omi tó tuntun, tó clean. Ló máa fi jẹun, ló máa fi gbó, ló máa fi dàgbà dáadáa.
The food crisis is man-made, and it can be addressed. Food insecurity can worsen already existing conflict issues, create new vistas for violence. This is the need why urgent policies and programs should be targeted at solving the deepening crisis.
Welcome to The Breakfast.
A breakfast where we unbundle top and big stories of the day.
Is vaccine the only way out of this pandemic?
No, definitely not.
Many Ghanaians just want a peaceful election and they are hoping there will be no rigging.
There is nothing bad in borrowing for infrastructure. The minister added that he was impressed.
Please come and see yourself what we are doing with the money we are borrowing.
It's very important. The way we brand ourselves is the way people will carry us.
It's just the driver of the 2 vehicles that were completely bought.
This one was here screaming.
What do you recommend the government do to support this sector?
Direct intervention, that's what every government all over the world has done.
We are not a parallel ticketing structure. A multiple core is a complementary core.
What I will not encourage Christians to do is to carry dagger and follow anybody. No.
Join us on The Breakfast, 7 a.m., Monday to Friday.
Hello and thanks for joining us on Plus TV News Update. I'm Tolu Vine. Some unknown gunmen have reportedly killed 5 indigents of Modekeke town in Osun State. The farmers were said to be going to their farm in Toro village in the early hours of Friday. Some people from the community and police operatives have evacuated the corpses. Invariably, the incident has aggravated tension in the town. Meanwhile, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, is asking Nigerians to stop what he believes are negative and false narratives about repentant members of Boko Haram. There have been hundreds of such members who are leaving the group and being rehabilitated by the Nigerian government. Reactions to their rehabilitation have been mostly negative, with many Nigerians asking that they be prosecuted. But Mohammed, who spoke in Washington, D.C., said the comments are demoralizing. He also debunked claims that the government plans to recruit the repentant terrorists into the Nigerian military. Now, some persons suspected to be Boko Haram financiers have taken the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, to court for alleged unlawful detention. They have instituted 53 different suits at the Federal High Court in Abuja, claiming that the federal government is violating their individual fundamental human rights. This is by detaining them beyond the stipulated constitutional period and without initiating criminal charges against them. They are seeking an order of court to terminate their alleged unlawful incarceration and monetary compensation from the government. The plaintiffs, who have been in the custody of security agents for over a month, are broad exchange operators alleged to have been using their services to advance the cause of Boko Haram terrorists. President Muhammadu Buhari has commiserated with the people of Adamawa State over the death of Dr. Mahmoud Tukur and Alhaji Ahmed Joda. On arrival, the president was received by the governor, Amadu Fintiri, and few members of his executive council. He then proceeded to the Lamido Palace, where he was received by the Lamido Adamawa Alhaji Barakido Aliyu Mustafa. At the palace, he commiserated with the governor, Lamido Adamawa, his in-laws, and the people of the state over the loss of prominent indigents in the last few months. He noted that the contributions of these men to the development of the state and the country at large cannot be overemphasized.
You come and condole with us, condole with the family, and also mourn with us because we lost a father, a leader, and a nationalist. The families are here with us. The only thing we say at the moment is thank you, because we ought to have been the one to go and condole you in Abuja, because our leader, Alhaji Ahmed Joda, and the family of Mahmoud Tukur.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the reappointment of the Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, and Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, Professor Bakar Rashid. The appointments are for a tenure of 5 years each, with effect from August the 1st. Also reappointed is the Executive Secretary of the Universal Basic Education Commission, Hamid Boboy, and the Registrar and CEO of the National Business and Technical Examination Board, Professor Ifeoma Isiogo Abanihe. A new appointment is that of Professor Promise Mebine as the Director and Chief Executive of the National Mathematical Center. Now, a coalition of Middle Belt youth organizations has expressed worry over what they say is a marginalization of the region by successive governments. They believe this has manifested in insecurity in the region, the latest of which was last weekend's killing of travelers in Plateau State. The president of Benue Youth Forum, Terence Kanum, addressed a news conference in Abuja, where he called on the federal government to set up a plan and a committee to fight insecurity.
The meeting did a comprehensive review of security and economic situation of the Middle Belt states and came to the conclusion that the region has been badly affected by unfavorable policies of successive federal administrations in the country, which have left the region grossly marginalized in terms of youth empowerment, empowerment for young people, and general development of the Middle Belt. The Middle Belt is currently rated as the region with the highest rate of youth unemployment in the country. 2, the forum is deeply saddened by the spate of insecurity in parts of the Middle Belt region, which has left thousands of people dead and rendered many other homeless, with thousands of widows and orphans. The forum sympathized with families of victims of attacks carried out by herdsmen, bandits, and other terrorist operations in the Middle Belt. 4, the forum equally sympathized with families of security personnel who have lost their lives in the course of defending the people of the region and other parts of the country.
Now to other parts of Africa. The Ugandan government on Friday ordered the suspension with immediate effect of 54 NGOs. The suspension covers the main civil liberties organization, Chapter 4. It's part of a move to tighten the grip on civil society. The 54 associations operate in the political, societal, religious, and environmental fields. They are accused of non-compliance with the law. The NGO Bureau, which is part of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, said in a statement, they are operating without being registered with expired permit or repeatedly failed to submit their annual reports and accounts. Now, Kenya's Court of Appeal will deliver its verdict Friday on the president's controversial 3-year quest to change the constitution. The so-called Building Bridges initiative seeks notably to reform the electoral system blamed by President Uhuru Kenyatta for vote unrest by expanding the executive and parliament. The president argues that the initiative will help end repeated cycles of election violence in the country. Post-election violence in 2007 to 2008 led to the death of more than 1,100 people in the country. Friday's ruling could shake up the political landscape less than a year before elections. Now, outside Africa, Turkey is ready to hold talks with the Taliban, if necessary. That's going by the country's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, as he spoke to reporters on Friday after prayers in Istanbul, that his country is not averse to negotiations. He criticized the Western world and Islamic states for their lack of interest and care of Afghanistan over the past 2 decades. Turkey has been putting in the necessary effort for Afghanistan's development and will continue to do so, says the president. The United Nations Refugee Agency is asking countries that have borders with Afghanistan to keep their crossings open. This is to allow Afghans fleeing their homeland to find refuge easily. The spokesperson, Shabia Mantu, has reiterated the agency's concerns about the risk of human rights violations against civilians who have no clear way out.
It's very important for the international community to be united, for all members of the Security Council, but in general for the international community to be united, to use the only leverage that exists, which is the interest of the Taliban for legitimacy, for recognition. And for that to be possible, I think it's important that the international community is speaking one single voice. It's essential to have an inclusive government representing all the different ethnic groups that exist in the country, that there will be full respect for human rights, and in particular the question of women's rights is very important for us, and there will be the possibility to evacuate without problems those people that would be in danger to be able to leave, and finally that the territory should never be used again by any terrorist organization of wherever area of action.
The Security Council must insist with all Afghan parties that the full, equal and meaningful participation of women in any new government is a non-negotiable condition of international engagement. We've all heard the purported assurances from the Taliban that the rights of women and girls will be respected. What we hear from women on the ground does not bear this out. The past record of the Taliban does not bear this out. The Security Council must listen to Afghan women and it must heed them. Now is the time for the Council to stand with the women and girls of Afghanistan.
Now to sports. The head coach of the Tigers, Mike Brown, has released his final 12-man list for the 2021 FIBA AfroBasket. The event begins in Kigali, Rwanda next week. Afolabi Oni, the media officer of the Nigeria Basketball Federation, explained that the list does not have Nigerians playing in the National Basketball Association. He said this was because NBA League rules do not permit players to participate in a competition 60 days before the league's resumption. And that's the news update. For more, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I'm Tolu Vine. Thanks for watching.
There has to be a decision point. The way your baby is presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you? Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
had that
showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, "You can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house." I said, "Well, it's my body and it's my front room."
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
After several years of missteps, intrigues, legislative somersault and restarts, President Muhammadu Buhari has finally signed the Petroleum Industry Bill into law on the 16th of August 2021. But Nigeria now has an act providing for legal, governance, regulatory and fiscal framework for the Nigerian petroleum industry, the host communities and for related matters. The President has approved a steering committee to oversee the process of implementation of the newly signed Petroleum Industry Act. Now, the steering committee is headed by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva. On the show today, we will give insight into understanding its impact on the oil and gas sector. Welcome to Business Insights on PlusTvAfrica. I am Justin Akadonye. Now, before we get into the Petroleum Industry Act, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has hailed the recent appeal court's judgment affirming its operatorship of the Oil Mining License 11, OM11, describing it as a huge victory for Nigeria. The corporation gave the commendation in a statement signed by its spokesperson, Garba Dean Mohammed, in Abuja on Friday. Let's now take other stories that made headlines in the world of business in Nigeria this week.
On Monday, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB 2021, into law. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, disclosed this in a statement he issued in Abuja. According to the statement, working from home in 5 days quarantine as required by the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 after returning from London on Friday, August 13th, the President assented to the bill on Monday, August 16th in his determination to fulfill his constitutional duty. The foreign exchange reserves in Nigeria have started declining again after rising to $33.59 billion, the highest level in more than a month. The forex reserves, which fell to a record low of $33.09 billion on July 12th, had gained $500 million in almost a month to close at $33.59 billion on August 10, according to the latest data from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The reserves, however, declined to $33.58 billion on August 12th, the CBN data showed. The abandonment of farmlands and accounts of the insecurity by farmers, herders, clashes, and rising incidents of kidnappings left food inflation at 21.03% in July 2021. Although the rate of rise was a bit slower compared to 21.83% recorded in June, the high level of inflation during the month in review meant that Nigerians continued to pay more for lesser food items, thereby weakening their purchasing power. This is even as the latest Consumer Price Index (CPI) report put the inflation rate at 17.38% in July year-on-year, or 0.37 percent points lower than the rate recorded in June 2021, 17.75%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Data collected from the CBN have shown that the federal government's total borrowings from the Central Bank of Nigeria through ways and means advances had ballooned to 15.51 trillion naira, rising by 2,286% in 6 years. The 15.51 trillion naira owed by the federal government to the central bank is not part of the country's total public debt stock, which stood at 33.11 trillion naira as of March 2021, according to the Debt Management Office. The public debt stock comprises the debts of the federal government of Nigeria, the 36 state governments, and the Federal Capital Territory. Minister of Niger Delta, Godswill Akpabio, says the federal government has commenced the process of recovering $4 billion owed by the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, by international oil companies. The minister said this on Thursday during the weekly ministerial briefing organized by the presidential media team. He added that the federal government had slated 2022 for the completion of the East-West Road and that the present regime had prioritized the completion of the project.
And those were the stories that made headlines this week. Moving on, the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mele Kyari, has said that the Petroleum Industry Act just assented to by President Muhammadu Buhari will transform the nation's petroleum industry into a hub of business opportunities. Kyari also said the act will attract huge capital globally into the country's oil sector, strengthen cost recovery, and ensure decent returns on investments. Joining us on the show to look at the recently signed PIA is the Pengassin Port Harcourt Zonal Chairman, Peter Chukwudi Onita, who joins us from Rivers State. Good evening to you, Mr. Onita. Many thanks for joining us on Business Insight on Plus TV Africa. All right, Mr. Peters, if you can hear me, let's just talk about the PIA, which was just signed by the president. A whole lot of reactions have greeted it, and with a lot of stakeholders saying it is a welcome development. What is the reaction of Pengassin to the recently signed PIA? All right, we'll try and reconnect Peters in a moment. Let's just take a quick break. We'll be right back to join us again.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, you know, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, you know, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Nigeria, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Decision point. The way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No,
I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken.
Of you?
Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
had that
showing my
conversation.
private parts. I want to put it
someone-
in my front room. And they said, you can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house. I said, well, it's my body and it's my front room.
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
All right, welcome back. It's still Business Insight on Plus TV Africa, and we are looking at the recently signed PIA by the President, Muhammad Buhari. And we have joining us the Pengassan Zonal Chairman from Port Harcourt, Peters Onita, who will be looking at all of the intrigues and, of course, reactions that have trailed the signing. Good evening to you. Many thanks for joining us on Business Insight on Plus TV Africa.
Good evening, Mr. Justice. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it is indeed our pleasure. Let's talk about the PIA. You know, it has been a very long time. Some would say that it is a long time coming. It's been almost 30 years, and it has just been signed on Monday by the President. What is Pengassan's reaction to all of this? Do you have any fears, any concerns concerning this particular act?
Okay, first of all, it's important for us to look at where we are coming from. Just like you have mentioned, the issue of the PIB, which is later PIA now, because of the signing of the President, have come a long way. For more than decades, Nigerians have been struggling to have a document, a legal framework that will be able to guide us in the oil and gas industry. So for us in Pengassan, having come this far, and finally the President signing shows that Nigeria is ready to begin the journey for the development of the oil and gas industry. For us in Pengassan, it is a welcome development, and we want to appreciate the members of both houses of both the Senate and House of Rep for having that courage to be able to pass that bill which the President just signed. We agree that there are a lot of things about the document that should be improved, but the first thing first is that it is a legal framework that will guide the oil and gas sector moving forward. And for us, it's a welcome development.
All right. In a statement issued by jointly by Pengassan and, of course, New Penga sometime last month, just before it was signed, your association said some of the issues they identify as gray areas included board membership of unions, restriction on import license, single regulator in the industry, provision of incentive for investment in local refining, among others. So what exactly, can you just throw more light on it specifically concerning this issue of single regulator for the industry?
Okay, just as you know, Pengassan as an association operates within the oil and gas sector of Nigeria. And when we raised those alarms that we did between Nupeng and Pengassan, It was because we have noticed some gray areas like you have mentioned. And as us, as an association, what we wanted to achieve is for Nigeria and indeed the operators to be able to look at those gray areas like we have mentioned. A few days ago, we saw on air, and the Minister of Petroleum acknowledged that this document, just like any other document, which is not the law, cannot be perfect at the first instance. So those imperfections, those concerns that have been raised, not only by Pengassan, but also raised by stakeholders across the country, these are what the government said they will look into. So we are sure and we are hopeful that the opportunity to review some of these concerns will be addressed as we move forward. This is a document that will decide the future of Nigeria oil and gas industry. And it is only normal that those who are in it should be able to raise concern where it affects them. Our happiness is that government is willing to engage, government is willing to look at those issues. At the appropriate time, Pengassan, having discussed with government, will be able to give a final position on that.
All right, Mr. Onita. Another issue that is seemingly controversial is the 3% for host communities and 30% frontier exploration fund. And even ministers and governors have said that it will deplete the federation account. But specifically now, what's your take concerning the 3% for host communities and, of course, 30% frontier exploration fund?
Okay, as an association, we have observed the concerns raised by the host communities across board. And just like the president of Pengassan asked, 3% of what? Because it's important we know the 3%. The minister is saying it's about the operating costs. Others are saying it has to do with the profits. But as it stands, we are happy that there is a template. Over the years, there is no legal framework in the industry. So if 3% is a starting point for government, and we have been given the windows, both stakeholders and community stakeholders, to also raise our concern, I'm sure that it will be a stepping stone. Nothing is enough, and I'm sure that even if they give 20% or more, it wouldn't be enough. But we now have a framework which the government have given as 3%. As we progress in trying to look at these documents, look at areas we can make amendments, I'm sure that Nigerians will be better for it.
So can
as
you
an
say...
association, we are happy that the communities are being recognized, and we know that when the issues are being tabled, more or better consideration or explanations will be given to all, and it will be better for all of us.
So would you now say it is uhuru yet for the downstream sector in Nigeria with the PIA now in force, although there is an implementation committee? Would you say that Nigeria will soon become a hub when it comes to downstream operations in petroleum across Africa?
Well, we wouldn't say that it is uhuru for the downstream sector, but what we will say is that it's a starting point for better things to come for the industry and for the country. As you are aware, the Minister for State Petroleum is the chairman of a steering committee that will be able to look at these issues and be able to work out modality of its implementation. Though the president have signed, but you are also aware that the effectiveness, the effective framework will be worked out by this committee. So we'll wait and see how the committee go about it. And as an association, we also make our opinions, our suggestions known to the appropriate people. It is only then that we can be able to come back and say whether it is a uhuru or not. But whether it is a step forward, yes, it is a step forward in the right direction.
All right, fine. Let's leave the PIA for one second and talk about other issues affecting operations and of course, the energy sector, specifically with Pengassan and your operation. Not too long ago, you addressed a press conference in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, and you said you expressed concerns concerning insecurity and how it has affected operations specifically in that state. Can you tell us more?
Okay, but you want us to talk about the
security challenges and how it affects, your
security
operations.
awareness of Pengasan.
Yes.
Okay, the security situation in this country is alarming, and we don't need a soothsayer to explain to us what is happening in the country. Kidnapping is on the increase. People are being kidnapped for whatever reasons. The security situation, people can no longer sleep with their eyes closed. There is hardly any day in the national dailies of this country that you will not see one or two papers reporting about the insecurity in the country. You talk about the Boko Haram area, is the same. So as an association, we met in our NEC and we agreed that as stakeholders in the economy of Nigeria, we must be able to add our voice to the security situation. As a people, we condemn the insecurity, but then we should also encourage the police officers and other security parastatals that have staked their life for the interest of all of us. So Pengasan is collaborating, trying to create the necessary security awareness in collaboration with relevant security agencies within the zone and within the country. So it is a program initiated by the leadership of Pengasan to first of all appreciate the policemen and women that are there and saving all of us. But importantly, to create the awareness that we'll be able to save all of us. Mind you, our brothers, our sisters, our colleagues are those who are involved in this security situation that we are complaining. In the industry where we operate, is just a norm that in every day you will hear one security kidnap, one overrun of one platform or the other. Our members are mostly what I would call the endangered species in this case, just like other Nigerians. So this program is our own little way to contribute to the security situation of the country. It's a step. This is just the first phase. The subsequent phases will be made known as we progress.
All right, let me just get your candid opinion just before we wrap up this particular segment. When it comes to modular refineries in Nigeria, what is your take specifically concerning that modular refinery and operations, in as much as Dangote, is actually building a multi-billion naira, refinery here in Lagos? But what do you think about modular refineries? Do you think the federal government should be looking in that direction?
Well, on the issue of modular refinery, first of all, association position, Pengasan position is that we should encourage our refineries internally to be able to produce and sustain what we are going to use as a country. That has been the call of Pengasan and indeed Labour over the years. So for modular refineries, it is difficult for us to appraise where we are, whether we are making progress or not. Recall that a few years ago, the vice president of this country made some visitation in some of these areas and approvals, executive approvals we are giving. But it is difficult for us now to ascertain whether these modular refineries have been able to contribute positively as we speak. However, the concept of modular refinery is a welcome development if adequate laws are being put in place for people to do business according to the laws of the land. So that will be our stake on that for now.
All right, we must say a very big thank you to you, Peters, Onita, for joining us on Business Insight on Plus TV Africa, and indeed, telling us the position of Pengasan concerning the recently signed PIA and, of course, other security threats in the region. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you for this opportunity, and God bless you.
All right, yeah, God bless you too. Indeed, we have been speaking about the PIA, and we were joined by Peters Onita, the zonal chairman of Pengasan in Port Harcourt in Rivers State. And still talking about the PIA, according to the NNPC boss, Milikari, getting the petroleum legislation passed is the right thing to do because investors will not invest their money if they are not sure of how they are going to get their investment back and what benefits they can get from their investment, as well as how stable the investment climate is. Away from all of that, the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, is set to hold her 14th annual Banking and Finance Conference in repositioning the banking and finance industry as a catalyst for economic recovery, inclusion, and transformation of Nigeria. Take a look.
Who is our compare to take us through. Thank you, Mr. President.
It's a shame that we are still seeing people who are trying to game the system, who are basically going to get tickets and seeking to cancel those tickets to try and arbitrage and all of that. But I think at the last Bankers Committee, there was a press conference and where banks spoke to the fact that if we found people trying to game the system and people are going to sign an undertaking as they collect their dollars that they were traveling, and if they're trying to game the system, we will report them to law enforcement agents. Their accounts may be blocked and all of that. But this is not the forum to speak about that. But permit me to just say that it is going as smoothly as we would have expected it to have gone. The Nigerian GDP report, I think we would leave that to the central bank to speak to once they finish, once it is ready, and I think they will address the market next week. Now, Abasie Kong spoke to digital infrastructure and the revised or reduced right-of-way charges. I spoke to the fact that a few states had complied and brought it down to basically enhance digital infrastructure. He spoke to Kaduna State, Lagos State, and I know that Rivers State is looking at it. We would engage most of our leaders, our political leaders, to basically see how they can speak to their other colleagues, all right, with a view to bringing down the cost of this right of way to basically ensure that digital infrastructure is laid across the country in a cost optimal manner. But thank you for raising it because it's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to. In fairness, a few years ago, there were a lot more states that had done it. Even Edo State had done it. And if we went up to the north, Sokoto State had done something. There were a couple of states that had embraced it. But I think the point you're making is the fact that we need all the state governments doing things that will basically enhance or reduce the cost of digital infrastructure. And I think it's a good point, and we'll take it up from here. Speaking to the issue of the USSD, I think there's been, it's not the right forum to speak to it, and I think that between the telcos and their regulators, the central bank and the Committee of Banks, I think we've reached what is a reasonable agreement as to the way forward, all right, so that the telcos can receive their charges directly from their customers in a manner that is appropriate for everyone. So I think that has been resolved, all right, and there's a good working arrangement between the banks and the telcos, if you like, going into the future.
You cannot underestimate the role of the banking system in supporting not just the survival of the economy, but in growth. Growth can only be in expansion of businesses and by extension of credit facilities and other banking services. So,
and the conference, which is set to hold sometime next month, will also deal with issues concerning cyber crimes, cryptocurrency, among other issues related to the financial sector in Nigeria. And that's the size of the show for this week. I am Justin Kadonye. Many thanks for watching. Bye for now. businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Urinary tract infection is simply infection of the urinary tract. So the body is divided into systems. And of course, you have, just like you have the digestive system, neurologic system, you have the urinary tract or urinary system, which is made up of the kidneys, the ureter, the bladder, and the urethra. Okay, these four parts form the urinary system. Any infection in any part of the system is what we simply call the urinary tract infection. Basically, every infective organism can cause urinary tract infection. The most common ones are your bacteria, your fungi, and viruses. You have virus infections that can cause urinary tract infection. You have fungi that can cause, especially in immunocompromised individuals. For an example, people on high levels of suppressants, immunosuppressants, or high levels of chemotherapies, or patients who have come down with retroviral infections. Then, in very common cases, are bacterial infections that cause urinary tract infection, which are the common ones that we see. So you have things like streptococcus, you have things like H. influenza, you have things like E. coli. In worst cases, you have Klebsiella, and of course, all of these bacteria can actually cause urinary tract infection. When they affect the different levels of the body, they have their different symptoms. So some of them get as far as the kidneys, cause things like pyelonephritis, and it further goes down to damaging symptoms. Okay, so it can be caused by bacteria, fungi, viruses are the commonest one. Protozoas can also cause it, and sometimes worms infections. 5 major steps actually preventing urinary tract infections. Number 1 is maintaining a good hygiene. Hygiene has been seen to be implicated in urinary tract infections, and if you are not very careful with, especially with the underwears, you can recurrently cause urinary tract infection. And then, of course, with the areas of sanitation, the restrooms are very implicative. And even in, partners, sexual partners, sometimes you may need to be very cautious. Okay, so basically hygiene. Oftentimes you see ladies not properly, use their underwears, or sometimes they don't even use it or properly wash. So it's usually recommended that they wash recurrently with maybe a hypo, a sanitizer, as it were, or a jig, a detergent, and sometimes even iron. Okay, the reason for iron is to give the heat if you don't want to discard completely. All right. Other prevention mechanisms includes proper dieting. Okay. When we eat right, we prevent a lot of things. Sometimes when we do a lot of sugar, you provide a habitable environment for these microbes to grow. All right. A lot of sugar. Yeah. Sometimes people even think that high protein diets are very effective, but no, you further even provide, because you see, in improper dieting, you alter the pH of the body. This pH of the body is what is responsible for the maintaining a proper environment that organisms does not grow. When you distort it, certain organisms now begin to thrive in places where they're not supposed to thrive. The third thing is water, hydration, good level of hydration, okay, keeps us consistently cleansed out. The fourth one is, it's been said that especially in women, they ought to clean from front to back. Rather, yes, from front to back, not from back to front. Okay, that's the proper way of cleaning. And then there's been some drinks that have been used in, especially berry drinks, cranberry drinks, have been very effective in the GI. So if you have drinks that have the cranberry or berry nectar, you have a good chance of preventing it. Some other ways of preventing: regular testing, you can prevent your urinary tract infections. Yeah. The symptoms of urinary tract infections includes a recurrent urge to want to use the restroom. You have that recurrent, and sometimes it could be very little amount of urine that could come out. You could have burning sensation in the process of urinating. You could have, itchiness. You could have cloudy urine. Sometimes discolored urine that could either be red or dark coke colored and all that. And then one other thing, pain, especially lower abdominal pain. One of the classical symptoms, lower abdominal pain. For men, you could see, of course, some burning sensations on trying to urinate. Usually not so much. And they could also have discharge, but that happens more with sexually transmitted infections. Now, the point about improper treatment, especially in females, is that it's responsible for high levels of infertility when it's not properly treated. The bad part of urinary tract infection is that it takes a quiet stage and right there in the body, and many people walk away, especially guys, especially men. They feel that they're good, and so it takes a quiet stage, and then over time, it's the cause of, or they become transmitters. Then the women eventually are the ones who come down with the symptoms, but they or never come down with the symptoms at all, and then life is good. The treatment plan for urinary tract infections can last for more than 2 weeks. It's important that you do not prescribe or you do not recommend yourself many of these roadside drugs that people do, especially when you hear things like staph aureus and stuff. No, none of that is just very unacceptable. In the treatment of urinary tract infections, you get tested first and you get drugs that are sensitive to these infections. Now, for some reasons, when adequate doses of these drugs are not taken, especially to completion, like I said to you, many times the treatment could last for as much as 2 weeks because of the level for where they are. The urinary tract infection is one of the lowest parts of the body. All right. So you have to do that long. If you don't do that, you begin to grow resistant strains of these microbes, and then you have to do it again and again. But the next time you're coming back to hit it, you don't get the same response like you got the first time. So it's important that whenever you're going to get treated, you treat for a very long time, and as much as 2 weeks, sometimes injections first, and then you complete the dosage with with a couple of tablets that are sensitive to the organism. Whenever there is recurrence of urinary tract infection, it's important that you pay attention to hygiene. Check hygiene levels very importantly, and that simply means that you may want to discard all underwears and replace them. Have proper baths. Just pay more attention. Number one, you never treat urinary tract infections without trying to treat your partner. It's important that you check out your partner, especially when it is one partner. Okay, if there's multiple partners, you just have to do something about that. All right. Okay, but then you want to also pay attention to your partner. The second and the third important thing is to check your fluid balance and all the other exogenous things you take. Now, when you're treating with the drugs, I recommend that you do injections first and then you do orals. Many times orals don't get as deep and as far as what injections will do. So even when you see sensitivity for certain drugs, you want to try the injections first. For me, I practice for 5 days minimum, and then subsequently, the books sometimes say up to 7 days. All right, and you do subsequently you do the injections. When you do that, you get a better result because of the penetrating capacity of injections compared to tablets.
As the Taliban take over Afghanistan, what is the fate of Africa, many ask, more specifically, Nigeria? And the revelation that former governor of the CBN, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, made indicts the APC and vindicates us, says the PDP. Well, we'll get to find out what that is on Plus Politics. I am Mary Anna Cohen.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamode Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
In less than 10 days after the United States withdrew its forces from Afghanistan, the country fell into the hands of the Taliban. The country had been ruled by the Taliban from 1996 to 2001, when the United States and allied forces invaded Afghanistan, aiming to stop the Taliban from using Afghanistan as a base of operations for terrorist activities. So now, putting in consideration the security issues Nigeria and other African countries such as Kenya, Mali are facing, could this international incident, what would it mean for Africa? Well, joining us to discuss this is Agogo Obo. He's a foreign affairs expert. Farai Muvuti is a senior analyst at the Southern African Times. And we have joining us from the United States, Justin Higgins, a former U.S. policy advisor. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm going to start with you, Justin, because obviously many have been asking questions as to if it was very timely or if it was, not the right time for the US to pull out its forces from Afghanistan, looking at what's happened over, the past couple of days. So, and I remember in 2009, if I'm not mistaken, when the president now used to be vice president, he somewhat did not agree with sending more people, more soldiers to Afghanistan at the time. So the question is, could that have been the reason why he pulled out now?
Well, President Biden, for at least a decade, has been against the continued operations going on in Afghanistan. So for at least the last 10 years, he has been pretty consistent, like you mentioned. But here in the US, just to give everybody a feel of the strong criticism that the president is facing from both parties, from Republicans and Democrats, it's not so much that Afghanistan fell to the Taliban. It's the fact that we have a 10 to 15,000 US citizens stuck in Afghanistan right now. And in addition to that, anywhere from 80 to over 100,000 Afghan translators, contractors, and people that we promised to get out and into safety after we evacuated. So it's not so much that the country fell to the Taliban, which is a point of criticism, but it's the fact that President Biden had 7 months to get these people out of Afghanistan and into safety, and he was not able to do so.
It's interesting. Now, we also obviously have a humanitarian issue with Afghanistan, because we're seeing more and more people trying to get out of Afghanistan, and most of them obviously will become a problem to the countries that border around them. But let's talk about the politics of it. Is it right for people to blame the US for pulling out at this time, and the fact that the Taliban have taken over? Again, where will all of these people go, knowing that the world as it is facing the biggest pandemic it has ever faced, ever? I mean, is this not going to be a problem for countries that have to take these refugees in?
Well, we spent 2 decades and hundreds of billions of dollars on a mission that originally was focused on eliminating Al-Qaeda and terrorism in the country. And it became very apparent, many experts think over a decade ago, that there was not going to be the ability for the US and coalition forces to create a stable Afghanistan. So from a domestic perspective, from the way that many people in the US are looking at this, a recent poll showed 66% of Americans did not think the war was justified. So politically speaking, there's a strong consensus that Joe Biden was right to pull out the troops from Afghanistan, that whether we stayed for another year or 5 years, it wouldn't have made a difference in the stability of the government, and that at the end of the day, we had been there for way too long, and it was time to bring our daughters and sons home.
All right, I'll come back to you because there's a lot more to talk about in terms of the policies going forward. But let me come to you, Farai. For Africa, there seems to be a lot of talk going on behind the scenes. I know that Uganda is to take in about 2,000 of these Afghan refugees, and this is because they're doing it at the request of the US. But for African countries, aside from Uganda, who are facing terrorism, like Mozambique is the latest on that list, and I think a few days ago there was another hit by jihadists in if I'm not mistaken, another African country, I can't remember. What does this mean for Africa? Because we're seeing Uganda taking in refugees, but for those fighting insurgency, what does this Afghanistan situation spell for African countries?
Well, yet again, thank you for having me. I think with Africa, we have a different context altogether. If you look at, for example, Mozambique, or even the current challenges of insurgency that you're facing in Nigeria, these are very particular circumstances that are very unique and intrinsically different to what Afghanistan would have. The case with Afghanistan, for instance, the Taliban is a homegrown group that is not external from the cultural realities of that particular country. As the recent president, or rather, I'll use the example of the head of the military here in the UK, who described them as homeboys or cowboys, who are basically locals within their own terrain. Who struggle, in most instances, people would read it as a fundamentally local struggle. In instances of insurgency, these are implanted projects that may be an extension, collaborating though with locals, but inherently a state structure still exists, and there is no external intervention. And this, which was of course the case with Afghanistan. What Africa may be looking at, however, is how it plays a role in that particular instance. So Uganda, as you've so rightly stated, will be looking into taking in about 2,000 of those refugees to create to support the outcome and the process of ensuring that the humanitarian aspect of the Afghans who are actually traveling out can be met as part of their global contribution, which demonstrates that Africa is a part of the global conversation through, of course, Uganda, and there might be more of that. But in a political sense, there is a deeper argument that is currently brewing about democracy itself, the notion that liberal democracy in its fixture or understanding, or by virtue of its ideology, can it be transplanted? This is a new conversation that you're finding. So it's boosting the argument that perhaps countries like Rwanda are making, whose democracies speak to their own realities and their own cultural and historical background.
The president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, I think he put out a report on the Financial Times, and he talked about the fact that Africa needs to look within to be able to deal with its issues of terrorism. But he also said that Africa seems to be the new front line for global militancy, saying that Afghanistan's uprising came as an unexpected momentum. Now, he fears that if Africa does not begin to look for African ways to deal with this issue, we might be facing an Afghanistan, situation, just like what we're seeing playing out today. But how true is it? And looking at African countries, because I'm going to ask my next guest the same question, are African countries finding African ways to deal with the issue of terrorism, or do we still keep going cap in hand to the US, or for those who are Francophone countries, go to the French for support? And how well has that worked out?
Well, I think there is truth in what the president is saying. However, I think it will be largely exaggerated to suggest that we would face an Afghanistan scenario, because these are completely different circumstances, as I said before. However, the non-collaborative approach to dealing with terrorism in certain instances or insurgencies can influence a growth of that. So to that degree, to the extent of that argument, yes, I do agree. But we are seeing quite a number of collaborations. SADC, for example, the Southern African Development Region has collaborated with Mozambique. We've even seen the extended help of Rwanda. In Nigeria's case, there is a regional approach to looking at it. Of course, in terms of boots on the ground, that has not become the reality. But this is purely down to the fact that it has not been interacted with. Nigeria has tended to be able to handle this on, or rather said in regional bodies that it's been able to handle this on security concerns. So I think in as much as I do understand his argument, I think E2 as head of state can push that through regional bodies and equally continental bodies. There is a thirst to make that happen. And do they have the power to do so? I think Nigeria, being the largest economy in the continent, has a lot of sway in what happens in the AU. So it can be empowered through its own lobbying as well.
Just joined us, so let me take this question to Agogo. Agogo, it's very interesting that our president is the one who's expressing the most fear as a result of what he's seen play out in Afghanistan. And when the president says this, it seems more like he's preaching to the choir, because really, have we really had a Nigerian approach to dealing with the terrorism that we're facing in the country today? Looking at the fact that we have a Hydra-headed sort of terrorist activity going on in the country under different nomenclatures. Is the president really expressing fear for Nigeria, or just expressing a general fear for Africa, noting what's happening in the Sahel? Agogo, I don't think we can hear you. Maybe you have to lose the headphone.
Works.
Great,
Is
we
it
can hear
better
you
now?
now. Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. All right. So I think that he speaks for the generality of West Africans, who unfortunately have bore the brunt of Boko Haram since 2009, and then ISWAP, which has taken over from Boko Haram recently also too. And then you have the farmer headers crisis, the unknown gunmen who have now become what we call the Fulani headsmen in this part of the world. So when he speaks this way, he's talking about a problem which has been with us for over 11 years and has led to the loss of lives in several tens of thousands and the millions of people who are displaced. And you make a great point in the way people have analyzed the government's approach in resolving first the Boko Haram terror incidents and what is going on with the farmers and then the headers crisis, which has now become number one compared to Boko Haram, where you've seen in recent days numbers of people who surrendered and are no longer willing to fight or take up arms against the government. But the question you probably will ask is what's happening with the states? Most of the northwestern states where you're having the crisis happen, the abductions, the kidnappings, the killings, they are states that have the biggest developmental problems and indices. If you trace back, you'll find out that many of those problems that heralded the Boko Haram crisis are some of the problems you're seeing being faced by many states in the Northwest and the North Central. So the governors are asking for soldiers, they're asking for weapons, they're asking for everything, but the development which has thrown their states into crisis. They don't have enough food, they don't have water, they don't have housing, they have a large number of children who are out of school. So on the one hand, there's the military option in which a number of the governors have assumed to be the approach in resolving the crisis. But the other approach, which is in getting those developmental indicators up to the point where we can then argue that because you have less children who are out of school or who have access to healthcare or have access to employment, then you're ready to fight this war. Otherwise, you just be blowing in the wind.
Again, my question, just to go push you further, the Katsina state governor, the governor of the state where our president is from, recently asked that the people in the state resort to self-help, which again makes me look at Mr. President's message on the Financial Times and wonder really if the president is talking about us here, because he lives here, he lives in this country, he sees everything that's been happening. Have we done all that needs to be done by the book for us to begin to decide if we can resort to self-help? And when governors begin to speak from different sides of their mouth, and the military is also on the other side, you know, trying to see what they can do as per damage control, does this not make it look like we're in some form of a chaos or a chaotic situation?
This is the case of the ostrich hiding its head in the desert and its rump outside. If you ask all of those states, there's no state in Nigeria that gets security votes less than 200 million naira. No state gets security vote every month less than 200 million naira. The richest states get about 800, 900 million naira. There is no plan by any of those governors saying that those monies which have been put for their security, which interestingly, if you put those monies into education, you put those monies into healthcare on a monthly basis, you probably will be dealing with the problem squarely. The president doesn't allude to a hidden fact, but which is public knowledge. In Nigeria, the states that have the highest population growth rate are located where you have the banditry and the terrorism going on in the Northwest. In Katsina, they've got one of the highest birth rates. And interestingly, you also have one of the worst malnutrition rates you also have, according to the government's data warehouse. So what did the governors asking people to take up arms to fight against what? The Minister of Defense, I think it was Magashi also a couple of months ago, had also asked them to take up arms. People who carry light weapons, RPGs and GPMGs as light weapons. What do you expect local vigilante to do? They have no way in going against these people and expecting anything short of simply being annihilated. So political, many people have said, but in the real sense of it, there's a lot more that still needs to be done. He's asking for investment, but the question is, if you're asking for investment in these places, what have the states done, to show some transparency in how those states are run. Plateau State, which is the North Central, I heard the governor, through his Commissioner for Information this morning, saying people accuse the governor of sleeping, but he says the local council officials are able sleeping and snoring far more than the executive. But the question you should ask, people have asked, that they ask all of the state governors, is what have they done to free up the local space? There is no state in Nigeria where you don't have the governors superimposing and taking control over what happens at local government areas. So on the one hand, there is no government at the local government level because the state governors, like emperors, are sitting on and breathing on their necks.
It looks like a very, very tough situation. But let me go back to Justin. Justin, it's very easy for Nigerians to quickly go to, or say to the US, we need you to help us at every point, whether it's with the NSAS, whether it's with terrorism and any other thing. We always go to the US or the UK to help us in this fight. Now, with what's happened in Afghanistan, can we say that maybe the US was tired of fighting, or that the US saw that, you know, this war could not be won? And then now that we in Africa are looking also to the West for help, should we jettison that hope that the West can help us to fight terrorism and, like my president say, begin to look inwards?
Well, I'm going to agree with what Farai said, or at least I thought he said, which is Afghanistan is a completely different story and set of facts and circumstances than the terrorism in Nigeria and really Western or US involvement in a lot of different African nations. That's because of a simple fact. In Afghanistan, it wasn't that we were tired of fighting. It was that the United States mission was twofold. It was one, to fight terrorism, and two, it eventually became, after a decade or so, to build a government. We got tired of the fact that the second part was never going to happen. In Nigeria, we're not assisting Nigeria by building a government. We are simply assisting Nigeria with fighting terrorism. So it's a completely different story. And then the other thing I'll say here is this. If there's any lesson to be taken from any government in Africa, the Nigerian government, any of them, it is that cutting down on corruption and increasing on transparency is the best way to get full and robust support from the United States.
We all know, I mean, you and I had this conversation a few weeks ago, if not months, maybe last month, when we talked about the fact that the US Congress or the Senate had put a pause on the sales of some fighter jets to Nigeria because of humanitarian issues. Now, we're in the middle of an unconventional war, and we're also having to deal with the fear of the fact that these terrorists continue to come down to this part of the continent, and then the gun running around the Sahel. It's a big deal. How do we fight insurgency? How do we deal with terrorism when we do not have what we need to fight it? Yes, we know that humanitarian issues are dangling over our heads, but what do we do? Which do we choose over which?
Well, I think you can choose both, right? If you have strong diplomats and a president who actually wants to get these tools to help fight and defeat the terrorists, then you sit down at the table with the United States negotiators and you come up with a path forward. This is just a temporary hold, as I mentioned earlier, by a few different senators. So if there's a plan put in place that the US Senate, that the US State Department feels confident about, and what does that mean? A plan in place that the US diplomats and the US legislators can feel confident that these weapons will not be used like weapons were used in the NSARS protests to gun down innocent protesters and commit atrocities, then it's very likely that these weapons, the hold will be removed and that they will be sold to the Nigerian government to defeat terrorism. There just has to be some simple steps made by the government to show that they are willing partners.
What lessons should Africa be learning from this Afghanistan issue, especially with the situation in Mozambique today, and of course Kenya is also dealing with the issue of Al-Shabaab, and I mean the list is endless if we start calling the names of the countries that are dealing actively with insurgents and these ISWAP. Now they call them ISWAP. Some of them are called ISIS. What should Africa be learning now? Just as my president said, should we look for Mozambican ways to deal with Mozambique's problems? Can we look for other ways in Kenya to deal with Kenya's insurgency? What exactly should we be doing, Farai?
Well, thank you. I think the solutions are to be homegrown. We have to look at it from a two-pronged position. We have to deal with the economic realities that create the conditions in which from which so these groups can gain local support. So dealing with the economic, of course, is critically important. So strengthening institutions to ensure that we can widen the distribution of wealth. But secondly, the security, of course, has a major role to play in this. And there needs to be a coordinated approach to looking at how security is dealt with. So Mozambique, for example, is quite a good way to look at it. They've been able to slowly deal with the insurgency because of a joint coalition of militaries that are African-based. Okay, and you do have, of course, the involvement of the United States and the Portuguese, but only in a training capacity and equally supporting financially providing financial support to the Mozambican government, right? But that support has to be purely on that basis. But the boots on the ground, the hard work has to be done by African militaries. And so far we have militaries such as Zimbabwe that have quite extensive experience within the Mozambican terrain. You have Angola now currently going in. You have South Africa launched into the deep of Mozambique. African solutions are best because they not only have the experience to deal with that, and they understand the local realities by virtue of culture, but they equally speak the language. Okay, so the community language as well. So all these things matter. So a homegrown based solution is the best way forward. Nigeria, for example, within the Western region, there is a strong coalition that can be created, equally through the aid of the AU. But these things have to be looked at. So in one vein, I do agree with the president when he argues for homegrown solutions. I differ when he uses Afghanistan as a critical example of that reality, purely on the basis of the differences of history, culture, and context.
All right, I'm going to wrap up with you. Going forward, because, I mean, everybody seems to be sounding the same. We need to deal with corruption, Justin says. Farai says, let's have homegrown security and fight against the terrorists. But in Nigeria, like you have said, we have issues of corruption, and now we have humanitarian issues dangling over our head. And we have so many needs that have to be met. The welfare of the soldiers who are at the forefront. The fact that we are welcoming so-called repentant Boko Haram members, and we have rehabilitated such before, and some of these people returned back as informants to the Boko Haram people. So again, really, that saying of once bitten, twice shy, shouldn't it apply here? And when we talk about debriefing these guys and actually finding out why they returned, shouldn't due diligence be done so that we avoid having the same problem crop up over and over again? In closing.
You know, at the height of the Boko Haram crisis, when former President Goodluck Jonathan was leading, there was a rough estimate about how many Boko Haram trained fighters they had. It was about 6,000. But if you calculate the numbers of Boko Haram terrorists that have been killed with the number of press statements you get from the military on a weekly basis, it's far exceeds that. So the question you're probably asking is, where are those numbers coming from? So it's the same deplorable situation that the local governments and the states over the years still exist today. One of the reasons why you're having a large number of Boko Haram, I don't like to even use the word repentant because if someone is sown in an ideology, it's a matter of conjecture how repentant you can really say that that person is. It's either he's dead on the side of a terrorist and alive on the side of those who are not terrorists, and at the end of the day, he still got a cross on his back. So those conditions that made it fatal for them to join Boko Haram or ISWAP, are those conditions still existing today? The answer is yes. You don't have schools, you don't have hospitals in those places, you don't have the employment, so you need a lot of investment in all of these places to get them on board. Many of those fighters, you also will have to do a reconciliation of some sort, and reconciliation comes with social justice. How many of them have committed crimes that are against humanity, war crimes, and those sort of crimes that should be punished for what they've done? That way, the people in those communities will be willing to accept them back, because already there's a lot of anger towards these people and they don't want them back again. So those are things I think people are talking about and want that to happen as quickly as possible, so you don't have what happened in the Northeast repeat itself in the Northwest, where you have a large number of people who aren't going to school. So those are things that we expect to see going forward.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you. Justin Higgins is former U.S. policy advisor. Farai Mavuti is a senior analyst, the Southern African Times. Anna Gogo Obo is a foreign affairs expert. Thank you, gentlemen, for a very interesting conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Marianne.
All right. Thank you all. Well, thank you for staying with us. We'll take a short break, and when we return, the People's Democratic Party tells us its thoughts about the statements from the former Central Bank of Nigeria Governor, Sanusi. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Decision point. The way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you?
Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
have
showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, you can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house. I said, well, it's my body and it's my front room.
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating. and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has stated that the expose by the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, which says that the gains made by Nigeria in 35 years were wiped out in the last 5 years, is an indictment on the APC-led government of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, the PDP noted that the declaration reflects the position of the majority of Nigerians across the country. Sanusi had earlier released a statement which said the Buhari presidency and the APC have in the last 6 years only succeeded in destroying every sector of our national life. Their manifest incompetence, unbridled corruption, treasury looting, impunity, exclusionist and restrictive economic policies that have brought our nation to her knees. Well, joining us to discuss this further is the Deputy Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Dino Udeyemi. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be with you this evening.
Interesting. But the PDP, which is the opposition party to the, the leading party APC in the state, has jumped on this expose that as you call it, by the former CBN governor. Many would say that the former CBN governor is just playing to the gallery, as maybe because he's no longer in the good books of the APC and Mr. President, and that's why he's waxing lyrical. And why is the PDP jumping on this? This should be your job as the opposition to bring out these sorts of exposés if they be true.
Is there anything that Sanusi has said that PDP has not said in the past? No. The problem is the people believe in the messenger than the message. Simply because perhaps it is coming from Sanusi now. People are taking it serious and they're looking at it as somebody who is an expert and who knows exactly what we are saying. And as a matter of fact, PDP, as an opposition party, has said more than this. Not only now, we have been saying it from time immemorial. And now that Sanusi has said it, we applaud it, we endorse it, and we are calling on other Nigerians not to shy away from what is happening, the current situation we find ourselves in the hands of APC. They should speak out. We have the likes of Reverend Hassan Kuka, who has not shied away from saying his mind. Baba Sojo has not kept quiet. And we are calling on other eminent Nigerians to condemn this administration. Not only condemn, but to appraise them and give them the mark they deserve, which Sanusi exactly did in his comments.
But the presidency has come up to say many times, there's several publications from the government saying, in fact, the president himself has given a pat on his own back, saying that the country is way better now than it was under your administration, and you had more than 8 years to run the country, and that you ran the country into the ground. And a pointer some of the pundits who are on the side of Mr. President would say is that in 2015, Nigerians were so sick of the PDP, and that's why they voted Mr. President in. What do you have to say to that?
Have you seen any student that will score himself low? No student will ever fail himself. So whatever is coming out from the government is expected. They are bound to defend their inefficiency. It's normal. Some people are even employed to do the job. So we are not surprised. They are doing the job they are paid to do. But you and I live in Nigeria. We know what goes on. Is it in terms of security or the economy or even the development, the infrastructure that we can score this administration high? When people keep talking about 16 years of PDP, it's quite unfortunate that we are not appraising what is happening to the, to Nigeria at present. PDP, of course, let's assume Nigerians voted against PDP. APC is now there. Why do you keep referring to the era of PDP that is no longer at the end of affair for the past 6 years? What we are saying is the era of PDP has been beneficial to Nigerians. And Nigerians have benefited a lot from that administration than what is happening here. And that is exactly what Nigerians are saying. That if you cannot take us forward, if the change is no longer forthcoming, leave us where you met us. And where did they meet us? They met them where PDP carried the administration, of a buoyancy. It wasn't as bad as this when PDP was there.
Oh, but you accept that it was bad. So you're saying it wasn't as bad as this, but then you accept that it was bad.
No. Don't misquote me. Don't misquote me.
Said. I was
what
just
I'm saying
echoing
is,
it.
Nigeria was extremely good. It wasn't as bad as this.
Meaning that it was bad, but not as bad as this.
Anyway, maybe that is the interpretation you want to give what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, it is bad now that Nigerians are now saying that this administration is the worst they have ever seen in this country.
Is it just enough to criticize the government? And I'm not in any way saying that we do not have a right. Every Nigerian has a right to criticize any government. But my question is it just enough for the PDP to criticize the government? But then if we take a look at the PDP and the APC side by side right now, we can't really tell the difference because both parties seem to not really have anything to show Nigerians or any shred of hope that Nigerians can hold on to come 2023. I mean, both parties seem to be having problems. You're going back and forth. And really, the same people that you're pointing fingers at are the same people who in the next few months are going to crisscross into your party. So what is the difference between PDP and APC? And why should we hope that any good thing would come out of either you or the party in power?
We are not in government right now. We have been
but
out
you
of
do
government
hope
for the
to
past
take
6
back
years.
power in 2023, don't you?
I'm laying the premises for my argument.
Okay.
What I'm saying in essence is the 6 years that we have been out of government has afforded us that opportunity to look at issues thoroughly and to plan and strategize against the misrule of the present APC with the assurance that if we are given that opportunity in 2023, we are going to do things differently. We have learned our lesson and we have sat down to re-strategize. And that was the reason why at a point in time, the chairman offered an explanation to Nigeria that if there is any way we have offended them or we have done things that are wrong, they should forgive us. But there is always an opportunity for us to redeem whatever it is they think we have not done right. And regarding the people that are crossing over to APC, you can be rest assured that it is part of the cleansing exercise. People can no longer wait in PDP because the way PDP is being run now is that it belongs to nobody. It is the party of the people. It is the party. It is the party that gives power to the electorate, and that is why we are giving that power to the youths, to the women, and to virtually all Nigerians. That this is an opportunity for them to build a party that we correct the anomalies of APC.
You didn't really answer my question because I did not ask about those who left your party to the APC. I'm saying in a few months, you will have people leave the APC into your party. So what cleansing are you talking about here? Because those same people will cross over to your party and be very eligible to run for offices. They will still be the same people who will work with you in your so-called strategy to redeem Nigeria from the claws of the APC. And so I ask again, what is the difference if the same people who are in that APC that you're complaining about today that are mismanaging the country, now cross over to your party. Like you always point fingers at the APC and say, oh, if you cross over to the APC, you become, holy or something. But it's the same thing the same rule that applies to you in the PDP. So what's the difference? Why should we have hope whatsoever that you are capable of changing anything come 2023? Shouldn't we be looking for other options?
Unfortunately, you are not going to bring people from Ghana or from Ivory Coast to come and run Nigeria for us. It is we, the Nigerians, that will run it ourselves.
But those Nigerians don't have to be in your party, do they?
I'm coming. If people who are politicians from APC or from PDP are the kind of Nigerians that we have, that will run this country, and if politics is a game of number, we hardly can do nothing about this kind of a situation other than to encourage the political party to stick to a policy and manifesto that if you are joining us, if you are giving us our mandate, these are the programs that should be executed. That's the only way to go about it. There's nothing you can do about people crossing carpets on a daily basis. It's very hard.
How about coming up?
Unfortunately, there cannot be a third party.
Hold on, Mr. Durant. How about coming up with a clear-cut ideology for your party so that whoever is coming to your party sticks to that ideology and knows that if you are in the PDP, this is our ideology. Just like every other country has an ideology, except for Nigeria. And that's why we keep having this cross-carpeting. So if the PDP is hoping to make a difference, how about the talk of an ideology, a clear-cut one?
I just mentioned it, and perhaps you are using my language to ask a question. I just said that the PDP is a reformed political party that has now drawn a program, a policy, and an ideology that will be given to whoever is joining us, either from APC or afresh, that if you are joining us, this is the policy of the party. So that whoever is representing the party will not make that mistake again, and PDP can become a formidable political party. And I've just mentioned it now, and I'm adding that while it has been difficult for a third force, a political party, to come up or display APC and PDP, is the fact that in Nigeria, Nigerians don't vote for an unknown party. We have other political parties in existence. It's not only PDP or APC, but ask anybody who is condemning people in PDP or APC to form a political party or to come together. They can't succeed with it. Why this is so? That is the kind of the nature of Nigerian politics and Nigerian politicians that we have. So nobody can be blamed for that.
We'll continue in that vicious cycle and not try to change it. Now, again, I'm going to ask that question the third time. Maybe this time I'll be a bit more clearer. I'll use, for example, the US and the UK. They have the Tories, who are the conservatives. They have the Labour Party. They have the UKIP. They have the Lib Dems. And these people have clear-cut policies. Now, if you belong to the Lib Dem, you're obviously against, migration. If you are a Tory, then you are conservative, and you believe you are obviously like a Republican in the US who are who are pro-life, who are against abortion, and all the things that the liberals stand for. But when you tell me that the PDP is going to have a clear-cut ideology and then they will tell you to do some things, I'm sorry, that's not clear-cut enough for me. I don't understand why I would vote for you because you told the person to do something.
I will rather ask you to wait, because very soon we'll be having our presidential candidate. As soon as we are able to present somebody to Nigerians, we will come out with a clear-cut ideology and policy, which will be presented to Nigerians and which will give us assurance that in 2023, we are going to win the presidential election. So what I'm saying in essence is we have used the last 6 years to study the situation of Nigerian and in Nigeria, and to come up with policies and strategy in such a way that whoever is going to govern Nigeria from PDP will follow that to the letter, so that he or she is not going to be a misrepresentative of what PDP stands for. So why not wait until that time?
Okay. Well, Durant Odeyemi is the Deputy Publicity Secretary for the People's Democratic Party. Thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We have come to the end of the program today. But before we go, we'll take a look at the roundup of discussions we had this week.
The last election was not really an election. It was a big scam. It's a big electoral scam, you know. It was not a real election.
What does that mean? People came out and voted, even though there was some drop in the numbers. The people came out and casted their vote. So when you say it was a big scam, what does that mean?
There were goats and sheep and dogs that were involved in the elections. You know, people brought out all sorts of things. Yeah. I'm talking metaphorically now. So it was just a big scam. And too many issues. I don't want to open a can of worms, but it was totally illegitimate.
We saw the president then moving in private jets of people like the governor of Rivers State and the leader of APC, Ashwani Tinubu, and the rest. And then a lot of money watchers was brought into. Elections are expensive everywhere in the world, but this is the funding that is the problem. So the crowdfunding you are talking about will not work, because if there is a candidate, an independent candidate that people trust and doesn't belong to any political party, people can just crowdfund for this guy and make him great money for him to contest the election.
One of the greatest problems of this administration is nepotism. Before the Senate and the House of Reps, the National Assembly passed that bill, we are aware that some northern elites had meetings with the caucus of the National Assembly from the north. And the message was that protect the interests of the north. It's rather ridiculous that we should be talking about protecting the interests of a section. And that played out in the throwing up of the 30% of profit of NNPC Limited for oil exploration in the frontiers. And the Niger Delta people, who produce about 80% of the resources of this country, for so many years have been badly treated. And what Mr. President has done, as we have said earlier, is a clear message to us, the Niger Delta people, that how we feel and what we say do not matter in the scheme of affairs of Nigeria. And so it's a message we have received. And not too far from today, the Niger Delta people will also send a message to Nigerians.
In Kogi State, we've been living with all these Fulani people over the years. They've always been with us.
But they've been with us in every other state across the country.
It means that if some people are now criminals among them, it's easy when you work with the leadership of the Fulanis in your state. You'll be able to sieve out those that are criminals among them. Let me give you.
I'm sorry. I'm going to push you. No. I'm sorry.
No, let me tell you this.
Let's use, for example,
yeah,
Kano State.
Okay.
Kaduna State, I beg your pardon. It seems to be a kidnap haven right now, and so they keep doing it time after time. Let's also look at Governor Zulum. You're telling me that the Governor Zulum is not working with the Fulani chiefs in his state. You're telling me that an El Rufai is not doing the same. You're telling me that all of these states that are experiencing the banditry over and over again, that they do not know that they should be liaising with these guys? Or are you saying that the Fulani men in those states are uncooperative? Which is it?
Okay, I will not be able to speak for those states. I can only speak for Kogi State. What we are doing in Kogi State is to work with the leadership of the Fulanis in the state.
I don't understand what the reference points to younger generation would be. We're yet to recover from what happened in 1993 as a nation. We're yet to remedy completely the ills of that annulment. We're yet to walk away from the problems that otherwise that process, that June 12th election would have solved. No matter how much politicians and politicians attempt to rewrite history, history will stand tall. And that's why some of us are very concerned about the praise-singing of IBB, the praise-singing of Maradona, the praise-singing of the man the media called the evil genius. I think that what we must note here is, and I say without fear of querulous critics and without equivocation, that the time to call a spade by its name is now. Maybe he wants a good closure to his sojourn in the space. But that
everybody has got their own
differently. I disagree with politicians singing his praise.
The last election was.
Well, thank you all for being part of the show. I hope you enjoyed all our packages for this week. I am Mary Annika, and I'll see you next week when we return on Plus Politics. Have a great weekend.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.